Hit us up.
Just, not to brag, but yeah, Sun's Out Guns Out over there. But just before we went on air, I ate a donut. So
Yeah,
just,
you did.
know.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Nice glazed donut.
Gobbled
Yeah,
it
listen.
down as well.
Listen,
told
when
you,
you're-
wait till you're on the air.
Yeah, exactly.
Why not? Enjoy the donut. I'm sure people at home eat donuts right now.
I'm just saying there's two ways to go. You can either work out like these two guys, look rough and fit, or you just get baggier clothes, which is my kind of way. Like it's working right. That it's working smarter, not harder. is what that is.
Fantasy Football Pregame with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Speaking of stuff in your face, Week 12 feels like Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday, 4 games, which makes Sunday seconds. Remember to pace yourself. Don't worry about the projections. Don't worry about the win probability. Just enjoy today's slate of games as well as Monday. Also, keep that in mind for us throughout today's show. We've removed the players who've already played from Matthew's rankings.
That's right.
So don't tweet us cussing us out or cussing Matthew out.
I mean, you can. Just don't talk about the rankings.
Sure. As long as you include the hashtag
Matthew.
FF pregame, you can say whatever you like,
Yeah,
but
100%.
just keep that in mind that, we're pacing ourselves here. This is really, we're going back for seconds when it comes to Week 12 on this here Sunday. Appreciate you joining us as always on Peacock and on YouTube. These guys need no introduction, but in case you're late to this party for some strange reason, not too late, still room on this train. Lawrence Jackson, Jay Croucher, Michael Smith, and of course, Matthew Berry. We will answer more of your questions than anybody else. We guarantee it. Hashtag FF Pregame. As always, we start off with storylines. Matthew, kick us off.
All right, so we're going to get to everything, by the way. But you know what? I just think one storyline I'm watching today is the Steelers' offense. We went into the season with high hopes for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We thought Kenny Pickett looked good in the preseason, and he was good down the stretch last year. They've got Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. Could, Pat Freiermuth be a top 10 tight end? Allen Robinson, maybe he could be reborn.
Why haven't we said Najee Harris yet?
Najee Harrison.
Why is he coming so late?
We were down on Najee
drafted in
Harris.
the first round, isn't he?
But there are some people, esteemed analysts on, popular shows that said he's worth a 6th-round pick. And
ADP was 3rd round. It was a great pick.
Yeah,
It doesn't really work, though.
Anyway, and Jalen Warren. And so it has not gone the way the Steelers wanted this year. Matt Canada, their offense coordinator, has been fired. Finally, they face a Cincinnati Bengals defense that has struggled so far this year. They are the second to worst. They're 31st against the pass over the last 4 weeks. They're the 25th scoring defense. So this is a defense that can be had if they can turn it around. So that's one of my storylines. Can we unlock fantasy goodness from the Steelers offense now that Matt Canada is no longer there?
Eddie Faulkner is the offensive coordinator. Mike Sullivan, though, is handling play calling duties for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Lawrence, you're up. What's your storyline for Week 12?
Speaking of fantasy goodness, in this game between the Patriots and Giants, who seem to now be battling for a top quarterback in next year's NFL draft, can we get some fantasy goodness in this game with a over-under of 33.5? That's the lowest on today's slate. Can we get fantasy goodness outside of Saquon Barkley and Ramondre Stevenson, who's been up and down? Maybe we got Pop Douglas out there. We know Zeke could steal a touchdown or two here and there. On the Giants side, Giants receivers. Darius Slayton caught a touchdown pass last week from Tommy DeVito.
Can we see some Tommy DeVito?
I know.
Tommy DeVito.
He was pretty good last time.
My reeling team in our show league, I started Tommy DeVito, but I can't really take credit because it wasn't like on purpose. You know what I'm saying? He was just the quarterback was there. I threw him in. This is super flex.
Just
now.
like the Giants.
You
Wasn't
know,
on purpose.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, can we get some fantasy points in this game? That's what I'll be watching for today.
All right, Jay, what you got?
Michael, the Kansas City Chiefs, specifically MVS, Justin Watson, they've kind of ruined the way I watch football, like visually. Because now when I watch players, I just expect them to drop the ball. Like Tirico Hill catches a screen pass uncontested. It's like, oh, what an amazing catch from Tirico Hill. Yeah. So my storyline today is whether the Chiefs offense, whether their wide receivers in particular can get right after that debacle against Philadelphia, where that game descended into farce, where it was just unbelievable. They kept dropping passes. Who's going to stand up now against a Raiders pass defense that is not very frightening, even though it looks like Max Crosby will go. First player listed doubtful to play since 2020. Looks like he's going to be. But I think that Mahomes, can he get right, and who does he target to get right? Because now everyone's watching this. Everyone's going to be watching every Chiefs wide receiver route. Is it going to be Rashee Rice? Is it going to be Justin Watson, who got a lot of targets? MVS, they go back to him, or is it just going to be Kelsey?
Or
by the way,
Kadarius
Toney and Mecole Hardman not playing in this one
Correct.
as well, so there'll be a narrow target tree as well. I posted this on my Instagram, and I didn't steal it because I gave credit, but like NFL IG memes, those guys, they never miss, and it's literally like never. These guys wrote. It's a montage.
MVS.
Never forget that Marquez Valdes-Scantling has a highlight reel of him just dropping long passes from two of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, and it's just all these. It's literally play after play after play of him wide open, Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes hitting him in stride, the ball hitting his hands, and then him dropping it.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's
tough.
It's tough if you're a Patrick Mahomes manager.
Dude.
The Chiefs may be a grinded out offense and defensive and Travis Kelce team. They may have just had to, reimagine their identity on the fly.
Kelsey hasn't been Kelsey this year.
Kelsey was really bad in that game.
too.
Right.
He got overshadowed a little bit by MVS and Watson in particular, but Kelsey dropped a pass. He had the terrible fumble. He just doesn't look physically right. No, he's been banged up. He's come out of a couple games. Maybe he's dealing with that. I think that's much more the reason than him going to Argentina, like people are saying that. I don't think that's an issue. I think it's more that he's just banged up, and also
he's 34.
He's old.
He's never been, we've never mistaken him for having speed like Evan Ingram either. He's a guy who knows how to find the open spots, and he's got great chemistry with his quarterback.
I don't know why Jay looked directly at me when he said he's old.
Also old at 34.
Your age. Yeah, exactly. I said goodbye to 34 many moons ago.
I'm going to go young. The South got something to say. I'm going to go to the AFC South, that is. And my Sunday ticket 1 o'clock game is this showdown, this potential shootout. I'm sorry, say that again? Oh, this is Steven in my ear distracted me talking about America's team. I'm thinking he's telling me something important. The Jaguars fan talking about America's team. I'm like, did I say something wrong? Like, no.
Our producer Steven, who we got through last week's show, completely fine without. Totally fine. He was in Canada. He was in Canada for the weekend. Canada sent him back. And now, he's getting you off your game.
I'm not off my game. I thought I said something wrong. Like, wait, the Texans do play the Jaguars,
and he was just trying to give some love to his Jaguars. So there you go,
Couldn't resist.
You've completely derailed the show. Welcome
Let me start
back.
that
Nice
over.
job.
My 1 o'clock Sunday ticket game.
Yes.
Texans, Jaguars.
Let's
Stroud,
go.
Lawrence, Young Guns, shootout. C.J. Stroud has not thrown an interception or lost a division game yet, these Texans, okay? In week 2 and week 3 against the Colts and Stevens Jaguars, a combined 664 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. The AFC South is practically on the line, and there's a lot of season left, but the Jags can't afford to get swept, Steven. Okay, the Texans haven't seen the Titans yet. They see them twice later this year. But last year, toward the end of the year, we thought the Jaguars were rule this division for a long time the way Trevor Lawrence ended the season.
Josh Dobbs was on that Titans team.
You know what I'm saying? Here comes C.J. Stroud and the Texans looking like they're threatening to win this division. You have C.J. Stroud. You have Trevor Lawrence, who looked more like Trevor Lawrence last week. You have Anthony Richardson coming back from injury. You have Will Levis in Tennessee flashing. This could be a really fun division for a very long time, so I'm always tuned in anytime I got opportunity to see the box office matchup that is C.J. Stroud versus Trevor Lawrence. So that's my storyline for today.
Be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
By the way, breaking news just came in
What you
here.
got?
NFL Network reporting that Mac Jones getting loose. He will start today, sources say. This is from Mike Garafolo. But again, Bailey Zappi likely to be in the mix.
What the hell does
so
in the
there
mix
you go.
mean?
Be like the Chicago game last year.
So you got one quarterback getting loose and the other one in the mix.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we?
This is like Friday Night Lights season 3 with Matt Saracen, how they used him for a series and they bring the other guy in and just go back and forth, back and forth.
QB1?
Great show, show.
Thank
right
you, Lawrence.
there.
Can we?
Someone gets it.
No, can we? Let's stay on this for one moment. Has there been a more waste of time, and I'm about to waste more time on it, more waste of time story than who's starting for the New England Patriots?
It doesn't matter.
It became less about who was starting and more about just like, will Belichick actually give us anything for the first time in 20 plus years?
It's like the Alien
hated
versus,
this story this
you know,
week.
the film Alien versus Predator? The
Yes.
tagline is whoever wins, we lose. This is kind of the same deal over again.
Well
That's
put.
fair.
That's
It's well
two
done.
in the same conversation.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Well
yeah,
done.
I've been working.
Well
a lot of
done.
stuffing.
Yeah.
You rolling. All right, moving on.
You can take the rest of the show off. Like,
Okay, yeah, I'll sit
yeah,
up
it's all downhill from here.
Moving on to burning questions.
Yes.
Shall we?
Oh, let's do
There
that.
it is.
There it
We
is.
can't do burning questions without a campfire burning.
Did they change your kerchief or something? I feel like
It's-
No,
I
that's
feel
the-
like
that's-
they at least changed the
That's
color.
the one. Yeah, they might have. Yeah, I look less like
No one's ever
Spider-Man.
commented on the lines of text.
Hey,
Is Australia or in England?
Let's stay with that Texans Jaguars and focus on that Texans backfield.
Motor, obviously, the last couple games has carried the bulk of the load there at running back, and I've said this before, and nothing's really changed. Like, whenever it is DP comes back, like, we believe wholeheartedly in sharing that load. It's the same at receiver, tight end, everywhere, except quarterback. You know, like, we want to make sure guys are fresh. When DP comes back, before he got hurt, like, he was making big strides in what we wanted as far as a runner and just getting used to the scheme, you know, adapting to what we were doing, similar to Motor. Like, I'd say they were clicking right around the same time. And Motor's been able to keep playing, and that's shown, and we'll stay on the same track with DP.
That was Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. DP is, of course, Damian Pierce, who is back. I presume Motor, first time hearing that, is Devin Singletary.
Yeah, that's his nickname, Motor Singletary.
Ah,
like
and
Motor
you knew
Berry.
that?
Yeah, of course, because
okay.
I'm Motor Berry. Everyone knows
okay.
that.
Okay, learn something new every day.
But he's Motor Singletary because he's fast.
Okay.
Right.
I'm Motor Berry, which is
Because-
short for motorboat.
Motorboat. That what I was.
You motorboat, you son of a.
Motorboat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
My
You do the
wife.
motorboat? You do the
My
motorboat?
wife.
yeah, you
lovely
better throw
wife.
that in there.
Of course.
Uh,
Oh yeah. You have no idea. Of course, poor Beth. You have no idea the atrocities that woman has had to put up with during
poor.
our marriage. You have no idea.
It's not even 11:15.
Speed of comfort.
Yeah, you have no
Not even
idea.
quarter past 11.
All right. Okay.
Poor
Singletary.
woman.
Pierce.
That woman's an angel.
Let's
An angel
focus-
on earth.
Yes. God bless her.
You have no idea.
Singletary versus
Yeah.
Pierce. Can they coexist for the benefit of us fantasy managers?
I don't think so, to be perfectly honest with you. Look, you don't love this matchup, right? The Jaguars are actually the 10th best running defense over the last 4 weeks, and so they've been really good defensively, and now you think about them splitting time. The last 2 games that Devin Singletary and Damian Pierce played together, Bobby Slowick seems to see like that's what we're going back to. That's week 6 and week 8. That those 2 guys played together. Singletary had a 47% snap rate, Pierce 41%. They each averaged 12.5 touches per game. Singletary, 10.5 fantasy points per game. Pierce, 8 points per game. He did get 5 goal-to-go touches here. I have Singletary at running back 19. I have Pierce at running back 32. If I'm starting one guy, you're starting Devin Singletary. But I'm starting Motor, my guy Motor. But I don't love this situation, right? You know, you wish that Damian Pierce was out. Damian Pierce, by the way, is my biggest miss of this year. Like, I loved Damian
But
Pierce.
that ain't your fault.
He got hurt.
He got
hurt in the
I know you
offensive line
could
or
have seen
whatever.
Devin Singletary coming.
No one did.
It seems like Lawrence. It seems like a good real life situation for the Texans, but fantasy not so much.
Yeah, it's and Bobby Slowick, he helped us out. He made it
Yes.
clear
Yeah, right?
by at least saying something. He's letting us know that Devin Singletary is not about to get another 20 carries despite coming off the 2 best rushing performances of his career. Like, he should be getting to do all the motorboating with them 2 performances.
Thank you.
And
Exactly.
with Damian Pierce, he spoke of the strides that he was making towards, before he got hurt, but he's never had a game where he averaged more than 4 yards a carry. But I guess he spoke on that.
He's never had a game in his career.
For this season, this
okay.
season he hasn't. His best game was his last game, 12 carries for 46 yards. So I guess that was the stride he was making. But I guess he's looking at it from a NFL standpoint. Sure. Damian Pierce is the back that can beat up a defense and wear a defense down more so than Devin Singletary. So at least Bobby Slowick said something to let us know, like,
something
hey,
to work with.
Right, so we can at least be thankful for that. Some coaches don't say nothing.
This is very true. I just wanted to clarify. I just wanted to clean something up real quickly, just because I'm getting.
Are you sure you're going to clean this up?
Yeah, I'm going to clean it up.
Or are you going to make it worse?
No.
Okay.
I'm just.
All right. Okay.
People are wondering what motorboat means. You seem so confused. And
Pause
so
produces
I just want to be
statement.
clear that what it means is that I take my wife out on the water. We
Okay.
have
Oh,
like we
yes,
have
of
like
course.
a we have
Yes,
like a
of
boat
course.
with like
Yes,
a
of
prop
course.
engine,
What
and
is
you're just
that?
right. It's a prop. This is like like when you're out there in like the little fishing boats.
That's
you got-
terrifying. Don't do that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
That's what it is.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
No, that really.
Yeah, it's a boat that you know. But you
I think they
in
call
the
that
water.
plausible deniability.
I'm just
Yeah,
some
yeah,
boats
yeah.
are sailboats.
Right.
Some boats are rowboats.
Right.
Motor boats have like there's a motor attached
Well,
to
I'll
it.
ask you again: is it built for speed or built for comfort?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, both. I have, there you go.
Oh boy.
The answer's
Singletary and
Njoku.
Njoku in the flex position, Mr. Motorboat.
I would go Njoku, honestly, here. I have Njoku as a top 5 tight end. Just, by the way, hints about what's coming up shot for shot. But I like David Njoku quite a bit today. Broncos really struggle against opposing tight ends. Dorian Thompson-Robinson doesn't seem to be able to get the ball downfield. He does look for Njoku quite a bit in terms of the short time that they played together. Njoku has been the guy that he's looked quite a bit. Amari Cooper is going to be covered by Surtain. So Singletary, I'm just nervous. Bad matchup, and he's in a timeshare. I'm going to assume, Daniel, that you're in a PPR league. If it was a standard league, I would lean more Singletary, but in a full PPR, give me Njoku.
All right. I want to stay with the running back theme. A bell cow running back is coming back. Or how much of a bell cow will Kyren Williams actually be? Tell us something good, Sean McVay.
I think we want to be able to give him a good workload, but I think that was something that we had identified. Even it was unfortunate that he got hurt, but I think you do want to be cognizant of, that's a lot of snaps, especially for what that position entails and the physical nature at which he plays, some of the things that we were asking of him. So exactly what that balance looks like, you want to be able to ride the hot hand. You want to make sure that you're able to get him in the flow of the game. But 95% is something that we definitely want to be mindful of, taking some snaps off him.
Kyren Williams was killing it before he got hurt. Royce Freeman did nice work, although not in the passing game, when it was the Royce Freeman, what's the other one?
Darrell Henderson?
Darrell Henderson, yeah, thank
Yep.
you. The Royce Freeman, Darrell Henderson show, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm the old one here. So what do we expect from Kyren Williams? I mean, obviously Sean McVay, it's not going to be 95%, but we don't expect a timeshare with Royce Freeman, do we, Matthew?
Absolutely not. This is going to be all Kyren. I mean, you heard it there from Coach McVay. They want to they'll ease him up a little
He
bit.
said
but
hot hand. That's what concerned me. Was that just coach speak?
Royce Freeman's hand can't get hot.
That's exactly right.
It's crazy.
I mean,
It's in an
literally
ice
the
bucket.
minute Kyren Williams
He had
was
73
off,
yards last
the
week.
minute Kyren Williams was off IR, they immediately waived Darrell Henderson.
Right.
Royce Freeman couldn't sniff the field when they had Ronnie Rivers and Kyren Williams out there. He had an 82% snap rate prior to his injury as well. Last 4 weeks, and then you look at this matchup, which, by the way, Kyren Williams played against Arizona before and was doing really well prior to the injury. Yeah. But over the last 4 weeks, only one team in the NFL gives up more fantasy points per game to opposing running backs than the Arizona Cardinals. You think about, again, here are the numbers. Just look this up real quick. In Week 6 against Arizona, Kyren Williams had 20 touches, 158 total yards. He had a touchdown, scored 21.8 fantasy points. I'll tell you this. Not only am I starting Kyren Williams wherever I have him, I am starting Kyren Williams in a guillotine league.
Yeah.
And I am benching Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor for Kyren Williams
JT.
in that league. Tampa Bay's really good, and I'm a little bit nervous about. Tampa Bay's a really good run defense, and I'm nervous that Jonathan Taylor taking over. That maybe Zach Moss gets back in there.
Arizona is a what?
Is a run funnel defense. Is a run funnel defense.
Still trying to figure out what that is.
I'm nervous about Josh Jacobs against the Chiefs as well. I think they could be a negative game script as well. I still might get JT in there. I don't know. I'm feeling nervous about JT for whatever reason. Anyway, the fact of the matter is what I'm all in on Kyren Williams.
I'm all in on him too. Just to be clear, though, it wouldn't surprise me if this wasn't a week where they just force-fed him everything. Where they just kind of
I don't think they'll do that first week.
Yeah,
no.
Off IR.
So I think you'll see Royce Freeman wasn't, all jokes aside, he wasn't bad. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, some of us had
He
to
went
start him.
17
You know,
for
like he was
73
fine.
last
I
game.
could see them, giving
Well,
him a little more work than you'd
mean,
expect.
when Kyren Williams was in there, Ronnie Rivers was in here and there. when he said we got to watch out for the 95% snap share, when that's Sean McVay talking, I'm thinking, okay, 88, 90%.
Yeah,
Like you
right.
said, the last time he was playing was against these Cardinals, and he went for $158 in that game.
He was so good.
And none of these neither obviously Darrell Henderson nor Royce Freeman did anything to make you feel like, hey, we should share the load. Nah, Kyren Williams was balling. I'm all in on them too in a guillotine league, just like yourself.
You know what I mean? Sean McVay is also a player's coach. Like he's a young guy. Players really like playing for McVay. Like he's a guy. I mean, you know this, right? You know, and so because I know you've interviewed a lot of his guys, and I just think he does what he can to get Kyren into the end zone too. I think they're getting close. I think, hey, welcome back. You know, gets him a score. So. I just think he's got, in my particular decision, I just felt like he's got if you're telling me one of those guys completely tanks, I feel like he's the guy that, he's got the great matchup and likely the biggest role.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor is a very talented player, but very bad matchup,
and best offense as well, if you want.
Yeah, probably best offense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they'll score. I think they've got a shot at scoring the most points today, certainly given the matchup. I mean, and they have Kupp and Nakua back, so I think they'll be in scoring position often as well.
YouTube question. Rashad White, who sounds like he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Popped up on the injury report. Appreciate the Bucs being on the up and up there. Kyren Williams or Ramondre Stevenson needs 2 already starting Mixon, unless, Matthew, you tell Johnny that he shouldn't.
I love this. I'm benching Ramondre. I think you keep Mixon in there. I'm nervous about Mixon. I think he'll be less efficient. It's not a great matchup with Pittsburgh, but I just think with Jake Browning under center, I think they'll mask that inefficiency with just complete volume here. And so, I think White and Kyren, Ramondre. I mean, you heard Lawrence talk about that game. Like it's just going to be so devoid of points and scoring and entertainment and just
happiness,
it's ugly and I'm not convinced. Like if you just ask me, like I think Rachaad White has been absolutely fantastic, and again they'll struggle to run the ball against the Colts, but I think Rachaad White, who did pop up in the injury report, but Shep's reporting last night, very precautionary. We expect him to go. So I think White's got the safest floor here, and I don't know, like. Couldn't you see Zeke vulturing a touchdown here from Ramondre?
100%.
To me, of all your guys, Ramondre feels the least safe in terms of workload and potential production.
Well, all right, that's a great segue, producer Stephen. Johnny's question about Joe Mixon. Let's go focus now on the Steelers and the Bengals.
When I was talking about being out on the water with my wife, in the boat, Stephen got in my ear and told me he's sweating. He was sweating. He was very nervous. I don't understand that because
the ship has sailed.
I'm just saying, like it's nautical.
If you were gonna get fired, we would get canceled. It happened a long time ago.
Of course.
If HR is taking a day off when this show's on.
I'm just saying. I don't understand what's the concern about seafaring tales. Tales of being out on the water.
Yeah. I think it was more about the hand gesture. I don't know what
No, but don't you? Haven't you ever? You've seen like boats that have.
You really. You trying to convince us or yourself?
No, I'm
America.
America.
I think he was more worried about the Wedding Crashers references more than anything. All right.
No idea what you're talking about.
The Steelers and the Bengals. New offensive coordinators, coordinator and play caller for the Steelers.
Yeah.
New quarterback for the Bengals, of course, and that is one Jake Browning. So you started talking about Joe Mixon, who you have in your top 10 when we account for the 4 games that have already been played. But what do you think overall of this Bengals offense when it comes to now Jake Browning under center? Or in shotgun, as the case may be.
Honestly, I think they're going to be okay. I said this early in the week. I think the line opened at 34.5. It's up to 36.5. I still like the over here. I think neither of these defenses scare you. The Steelers have been much better defensively recently, but they're still 23rd against the pass over the last 4 weeks. They're banged up on defense as well. I thought, and we talked about this, Jake Browning looked competent when he came in for Joe Burrow on Thursday night against the Ravens. He's on the road in Baltimore in a short week, and so now he's had 10 days to prepare for this game. And we heard
he had a whole preseason to prepare for this
He had
game.
the whole preseason. He's been in the system for a few years now. We talked to Connor Rogers on Fantasy Football Happy Hour, and Connor, of course, scouts every single college player, does just an absolutely great job. He was lead draft analyst at Bleacher Report for 7 years. And Connor just said, Browning, in the best possible way, like a game manager. Like he's not somebody who's going to win you the game, but he is somebody that can run an offense, that understands that. He's a little bit more mobile than I think he gets credit for as well. And so Browning, who has a fantasy-friendly offense around him and obviously great skilled players around him, no T. Higgins again today, but still, even in a game against the Ravens where he was on the road on a short week, Jamar Chase still found the end zone. I'm not necessarily recommending you're starting Jake Browning, but to the extent that you have Jamar Chase or Joe Mixon.
But he found the end zone in garbage time. It was 1 or 2 catches. That still counts. But
I think the thing with Chase is, and this is, I think, really key in this matchup, is that the Steelers play a ton of man coverage. It's just what they do, what they've always done. And so Chase is going to be matched up against Patrick Peterson, who I think is trending towards being done. He's getting older. Or Joey Porter Jr., who's a rookie, going up against Jamar Chase. He's been good, but on an island against Jamar Chase.
Against him. You ain't got no T. Higgins to worry about. That'd be malpractice if you let Jamar Chase beat you.
That's how they play. That's how they play. And I
for some reason, sometimes teams just do let Jamar Chase beat them, like the Cardinals earlier this season. I tell you what, in this matchup, it might be a question of who even got the better quarterback here. What else is good for Jake Browning is this. He's going from the Baltimore Ravens defense, top 2, to the Steelers defense, 6th worst. That's a big difference. So, he's got that working for him. And like you said, the weapons around him, utilize Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase. Just get him the targets. However, whether it's man coverage,
or it could be screens.
they're going to find a way.
You're not benching Jamar Chase.
Yep.
But hypothetically speaking, you're in a guillotine league.
Yeah.
You got a tough call to make.
I do. I'm
Jamar
trying to decide,
Chase.
Yeah, Michael Pittman or Tank Dell.
I say Tank Dell out of those 3.
I'm taking Chase. I just think 1, he's the best player. 2, I think he's just gonna get peppered with targets. I think Higgins out actually helps raising his floor just because of the amount of targets he's going to get. And then also there's no Minkah Fitzpatrick either. He's the best player in their secondary. And so I think it all just adds up. Chase's receiving prop is 63.5 yards. That is way too low. It's Jamar Chase against a very suspect defense. So I think Chase has a massive day today.
Give me your guy Tank Dell with C.J. Stroud.
I'm with you. I'm actually leaning Michael Pittman, who I just
neither.
Tampa Bay is in all seriousness,
Guess I'll go myself right now.
Tampa Bay is a pass funnel defense. Literally over the last 4 weeks, no team in the NFL has given up more passing yards per game than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Pittman is another guy who's just a target monster. They're coming off the bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, which is home at Indianapolis.
I knew it. I knew you were to take that guy.
I've tanked Dell.
I knew you were.
In double-digit leagues. But
you ain't real.
I'm betting on I bet it's over. Tank Dell's my guy. But, I'm just guillotine league. It's me and 3 people.
This your nephew.
You go down with Michael Pittman. I'll go down with Jamar Chase.
Uncle Matthew, you need to start 3 wide receivers, full PPR. Stack with Devontae, Keenan Allen, Chase, Kupp, win, and Allen is in the playoffs. Good for you, Allen.
Stack with Devontae. So that's, I guess he's got Jalen Hurts, and so he's.
Oh, yes. He probably got Jalen Hurts.
I'm still going with the bottom 3. I'm going with Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
I get it with Devontae Smith, and the Bills have been struggling, and I don't know, though. And Smith should get a lot more work. Obviously, because Goddard's out, and we talked about it. It's one of the reasons why Smith was on my love list last week. I don't know. This feels like an A.J. Brown game today because he wasn't used very much last week against the Chiefs. Everyone else on your team is the number 1 wide receiver on their team, and it's not close. I guess Kupp with Puka a little bit, but I don't know. To me, that's where I'm going there. Devontae's clearly the number 2 behind AJ.
Also,
can I say it for you? Can I say it for you? You can't mess it up.
Yeah, he might be able to mess it up a
Can
little
he mess
bit.
that up?
Listen,
That's
tell you why
damn
he
good
can mess
rule.
it up. Because we've talked about this. We think Jamar Chase should be just fine. I'm starting him wherever I have him with Jake Browning, but we haven't seen it yet, really.
Okay. But it's Jamar Chase.
Right. Cooper Kupp has been bad the last couple of weeks. Again, but
he's healthy.
He's healthy. They're
lit
playing
up Arizona
Arizona.
last time.
But
Yep.
we haven't seen a lot of Puka and Cooper both going off. So could this be a big Puka game? Again, I think Kupp has a big game. He had a big game the last time they played Arizona, but still, that's how you could screw it up. And then same with Devontae Smith, which is could be a big A.J. Brown game. Jalen Hurts
I
gets a couple
don't
rushing
think he's
touchdowns.
kicking himself starting any of those guys.
They're all great. They're all
Yeah,
great.
just start the
Allen.
3 number 1 receivers on the team. There you go.
That's what I'm doing.
Some weeks it's Devontae though. Some weeks he is
But
the
more
number
often
one,
than not, you know.
Are you benching any of those guys for Devontae Smith?
I'm not. This is you're gonna accuse me of getting cute.
No, I'm not. I'm asking.
I'm not trusting Jake Browning until I see it.
All right.
Not in guillotine, not in redraft. I love Jamar Chase. If I got those other 3 guys, I like those other 3 guys better than Jamar Chase.
Interesting.
I hear you.
I just think the
not
other
Jake
thing too
Brown,
is
you know.
that there's going to be bad weather in Philly too. It's going to be raining. It's not going to be like a torrential downpour or anything, but it will be raining, which is another like a little thing.
So we've established Jamar Chase is gonna have like 300 yards.
You know that's happening.
Nah,
Yeah.
just 226.
Just 2 several touchdowns. You know what? Let's go to Sunday night
Yeah.
with our last burning question. And look at the Baltimore Ravens offense, which will have Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers, or expected to have Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers, certainly a lot of time before kickoff, but of course will not have Mark Andrews, which boosts Isaiah Likely into that tight end 1 spot. Who do you expect to step up, Matthew?
I think they all sort of do here, right? I mean, so first off, we like Likely. I'm as a top 10 play this week. Chargers allow the second most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. You see it there on your screen. He comes in at tight end 8 for me at the very bottom. You see that there. But with Mark Andrews out, that's a 23% target share that is now up for grabs. And so Zay Flowers should be the beneficiary. Him and Odell Beckham Jr. We talked about this last week. Beckham looked back. You're like, oh, that's the OBJ I remember, right? That's the
running with the ball in one hand and
I mean,
whatnot, looking real good.
3 straight games now with double-digit fantasy points for OBJ. That was his. He had a 30% target share last week. It's a great matchup as well for both Zay Flowers and OBJ, which is I have them ranked in that order. I have them at 8. I have Zay Flowers at 18, OBJ at 22. Again, remember we've taken all the players out that have played on Thursday and Friday, so 8 teams worth of players have been removed from the rankings. So once you get there, Flowers at 18, Beckham at 22. I'm both right there. Chargers have allowed the second most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers as well. This game feels like it's going to be a shootout just because the Chargers, I think, will have to continue to throw to keep up with Baltimore. You know, and the Ravens offense is playing as well as any offense in the league.
And you correctly didn't have these 2 players ranked in there, but don't be surprised if Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar, they will be. Now that Mark Andrews is out he's out indefinitely, Nelson Aguilar is their leader in receiving touchdowns. He scored last game against the Bengals, so he'll definitely be involved as well. It's like you know how they say running back by committee? This could be receiver by committee for the Ravens, with obviously OBJ and Zay Flowers heading that.
One thing with OBJ, I think we forget, I think he's 31, 32, he's not that old. And the last time that we saw him before Baltimore, he was on his way to winning Super Bowl MVP. He still had a lot of juice in the tank. I worry a bit about the shoulder, which seems to be an actual thing. The Zay Flowers injury doesn't seem to be too serious, but Odell, he was in real pain after the game, but he should be fine. And Lamar's should be able to feast against this Chargers defense.
Hey, Tyler, Rondell Moore, Gabe Davis, or Gus Bus as his second flex today. Full PPR. Already streamed Jeff Wilson Friday in the first slot. Damn.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's tough. Yeah, really what
Sound
you
like
need
one of my
is a time machine to go back and not do that.
I wonder, so he went Jeff Wilson over Gus Edwards? Dang. It's all good, Tyler.
Yeah. No, see, here's what's interesting to me. I think
Gave him 8.
Well, here's the thing. Gus Edwards, who's just been a touchdown machine, would be the guy that I would normally start here. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if the answer is Gabe Davis, and I'll just tell you why. Just because
Philly.
It's Philly who's bad against wide receivers. Jay, you've talked about this all week, and I'm with you. You like the Bills to actually win this game. Yep. We think Josh Allen's going to have a big game. It's going to be a big Stephon Diggs game. But my point is that if you already streamed Jeff Wilson Friday in the first spot, and I don't know how the rest of your team went, but my point is if you're already down big, if I needed to swing for the fences, if you're telling me one of these guys has, a monster 25-point day, Gabe Davis is the guy that most likely has that in him. I think Gus Edwards and even Rondell Moore, who caught the 1 touchdown last week, Marquise Brown less than 100%, you could see him having more of a floor play. just on pure ranking, I would have Gus Edwards highest. But if you needed to swing for the fences, I think Gabe Davis, who has just this wide variance.
Yep, I think that's fair. My concern would be, I think Khalil Shakir is just better at football than Gabe Davis at this point. So he might be the third receiving option going forward.
He might be, and they're certainly changing things up. Obviously, once no longer Ken Dorsey, they used a lot of motion last week, which was under Brady that they hadn't used before. So it's hard to say. But if you needed to swing for the fences, it's Gabe Davis. But if you're surviving the Jeff Wilson start, then Gus Edwards. He's got the most likely shot at a touchdown, obviously.
All right, y'all ready to take some shots?
Let's do it. Always.
Time for shot.
Steven's probably already been taking shots.
He ought to know, man. Like, Teflon around here.
Yeah. Poor Steven.
Anyway,
Steven.
Matthew, you take that first shot, will you?
Yeah. All right. Well, so we've been talking about this. Let me find my. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. No, that's the
Rams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it is. It's just rolled. It's kind of blending into the football.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah, that's the Rams.
Okay.
Yep.
That's right.
The other side is more clear.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Let's do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. There we go.
Struggling
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Well, for a second there, I thought it was the Chargers.
Right.
With a C.
No, I got it. It's just
All right.
Yep.
Anyway, here's my shot. I've had a long weekend.
So is this all of America.
Yeah. Apparently.
Literally.
Yeah. Anyway.
Go motorboat
100
that
yards
shot.
and a touchdown. I might. 100 yards and a touchdown for Kyron Williams in his return. Arizona, again, has allowed the third most rushing touchdowns to running backs this season. I think Kyron Williams gets back in a big way. Rams win this game. They open as -1, and they open at +1, which is amazing. It's now, I think, 2.5. I think the Rams win. I think the Rams cover. And I think Kyron Williams is a big part of it. Give me Kyron Williams for 100 yards and a touchdown in his return.
Jay?
Okay. You know the Jesse Pinkman, Aaron Paul, the meme of if you can't keep getting away with this?
Right.
Referring to, I believe, Walter White. He may as well have been referring to the Philadelphia Eagles. They cannot keep getting away with this. They cannot keep winning these close games. They should have lost by double digits to Kansas City. Their luck will finally run out. The Bills win outright to keep their season alive, keep their playoffs hopes alive, and the Bills win in Philadelphia.
I like it.
All right, two rookie quarterbacks, Bryce Young, Will Levis. I'm going to go with the #1 overall pick, Bryce Young, to outscore Will Levis in fantasy, and the Panthers will get their second win, and they'll still be in the quarterback derby, but they already got the quarterback. Panthers win, Bryce Young outscores Will Levis.
All right. Let me get. Well, this is clear, so this must be okay. This is the
There's a
Browns.
couple
this,
of
this is the
those.
Browns one. A couple of clear ones. Okay, that's the Browns one. Jerome Ford against that Broncos defense, which has been pretty generous to running backs. At least 75 yards rushing, at least 50 yards receiving. A great scrimmage game from Jerome Ford. Cheers.
Ooh, I like that.
Back to you, brother.
All right. Well, we hinted at this earlier, but David Njoku finishes as a top 5 fantasy tight end today. Tight ends that have gotten at least 6 targets against the Denver Broncos, averaging over 17 fantasy points per game. He should get that much. He's gotten a ton of targets and looks from Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who does not at the moment seem willing to go down the field. Patrick Surtain is going to be on Amari Cooper as well. Njoku is a top 5 fantasy tight end today.
All right. Jay.
Okay, return of the king, Derrick Henry, at last, breaks out in the big way. Panthers have the worst rushing defense in the NFL. King Henry goes for 100+ rushing yards.
All right.
Yeah, so Tampa Bay, they may have a top run defense, but the Colts got Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to go with him at least 117 scrimmage yards. I say scrimmage because he might get a little bit in the receiving game, and 2 touchdowns versus Tampa Bay.
Man.
CMC went for 100 scrimmage yards and a touchdown last week. Jonathan Taylor is on that level. I think he does that today.
Man. So league-winning week right there, or week-winning week, I should say. Week-winning performance. All right, so y'all told me earlier to start Keaton Mitchell over Tajay Spears, Khalil Shakir, and Pop Douglas. So I'm going to manifest a 50-yard touchdown run, 50-plus yard touchdown run from my man Keaton Mitchell.
I like that. Listen, no
That's all-
Joey Bosa. I mean, I do think they're going to try to get the edge, with Mitchell and Lamar as well. But
And you better believe it'll only be 1 carry for a 50-yard touchdown, because after that, they just going to stop giving on the ball.
right,
That's my biggest concern with starting him, but all it takes is one. Back to you, Matthew.
My guy, Tank Dell,
Yeah.
who I love.
You're not starting in your guillotine league.
It's a guillotine.
How much do you really love him? How much do you really love him? You cannot take this shot. You cannot call this shot and not start him. Come on, man.
All right, I'll start him.
Thank you.
I do love Tank Dell.
Okay,
I love
show
Tank
us.
Dell in generally. I love
resistance
Tank Dell
there.
on my team. I love Tank Dell.
But wait, if you lose, though, you going to be mad at me? Like if,
No.
then
I'll
you
be
Danny
mad at Danny Carter. Yeah, I'm always mad at Danny Carter. It's just easy to throw this on one.
All right.
I'm saying 20 fantasy points for Tank Dell. 20 fantasy points. When he's seen at least 7 targets this season, he's averaging 24.6 fantasy points per game. We expect a ton of points in this Jacksonville-Houston matchup here as well. No Noah Brown in this game either. So it should be all Tank Dell and Nico Collins. I'm not worried about Robert Woods. Maybe see a little Dalton Schultz. But, 20 points for my guy, Tank Dell.
Tank.
Go, baby.
Yeah.
All right, staying in that game, I'm going to say D'Amico Ryans is your Coach of the Year favorite tomorrow morning. He's not at the moment. That's Dan Campbell, which is a little suspect after the Thanksgiving performance. But I think that the Texans will beat the Jags, wrestle control of the AFC South, and everyone is raving about D'Amico tomorrow.
Oh, I like that.
If they
I
are
like that
already,
because
they should be
it
already.
also makes Steven very sad.
Yeah, that's a
He's
Jags
He's
man.
sad. He's a Jag.
I don't want to
he's a
make
Jags
him more.
man.
I don't want to
Golly.
make him even more
Just
sad.
gang up on Shelby Day. You about another one?
Nico Collins,
Okay.
because this could all of these things
My
could
next shot is
definitely
Dalton
happen.
Schultz, by the way.
All right, can I change
All of
mine?
these could definitely happen. I'm going Nico Collins, who hasn't had a 100-yard receiving game since week 4. He'll go for at least 123 receiving yards and a touchdown against Jacksonville, who allowed the 9th most points per game in fantasy, 2 receivers. I got 2 leagues where I start Nico and take Dale.
Oh, like
Some
it.
be good either way.
Yeah.
So let's pour it up for them.
You want to explain
like
the
that.
123?
Just that's what I'm feeling.
Okay,
At
okay,
least
all right.
123.
Okay.
At
So,
least
yeah,
120.
all
Not
right. So
Not
120.
125.
Not 120,
Right.
not 125, at least
All right.
123.
Okay.
At least 120. It's 123. I feel bad. I just feel bad because I'm just imagining Steven tomorrow, producer Steven tomorrow, sad, wearing his little Jaguars hat. After Houston's won, he's filling out all the HR paperwork, and he's just sitting there all sad tomorrow.
Filing the report about motorboats and
Filing the
whatnot.
report,
Yeah.
yeah,
Say
exactly.
stuff. My team's in second place in the AFC South.
Yeah, exactly. Poor Steven.
I mean, I really wish I could do a Texas one now, but I'm gonna go back to the Colts.
He's like, "Hi, Chris Sims. I'm the new producer for Unbuttoned."
I'm gonna go back to the Colts. Tank Dell's been he's been a revelation. Not the only little rookie receiver doing work this year. Before Josh Downs had knee issues started flaring up and cost him practice time and snaps, he was killing it. He's back healthy off the bye. Give me 8 or more receptions for 100+ yards and a touchdown for Josh Downs against that Bucs secondary.
Let's go.
Okay,
I like that.
I like it.
I like that. I think Minshew is a sneaky streamer this week.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
Again, I think Pittman and Downs, 100%.
All right. We're going to take our first break. We'll talk more about motorboating in the break.
Yeah.
Tommy DeVito.
Look at that.
Let him look.
Fresh out his mama basement.
He's
Are
ready.
those like Balenciagas, though?
Season 4
When
of
you
The
live
Sopranos.
with moms,
Yeah.
you can spend on Balenciagas.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I'm not a fashion guy, as you can tell.
I think
so
that's
I'm
what
gonna
those
I'm gonna
are.
trust you on that one.
I think that's what you're
Yeah.
rocking. All right.
I like that. Someone should have put the Sopranos music, the theme music, and walking. Like when he's driving over. Yeah, that's what that. Someone should take that footage and just put the Sopranos music over it.
All right, Rashad White, Damian Pierce, back to boost your backfields. They are active after coming in as questionable. So is Zay Jones, which is promising for Calvin Ridley, right? That's how that works?
Yeah.
Devontae Parker
seems.
back from his concussion. And of course, T. Higgins, Noah Brown, Traylon Burks, and Hayden Hurst all out. If you need some help on the waiver wire, specifically at the running back position, we mentioned Ezekiel Elliott, who could steal a touchdown from Ramondre Stevenson. Ty Chandler, who really stepped up last week. I don't think Royce Williams is going to go away, but the guys think it's going to be all Kyrie Williams. You're better off listening to them than me. No Deontay Foreman, so maybe more Rashawn Johnson against the Vikings. And of course, I don't know why Tyjae Spears is still so widely available. Matthew, anything jump out to you on this list?
I mean, yeah, because we don't expect Deontay Foreman, so Rashawn Johnson should be the guy. I do think Ty Chandler is pretty interesting as well. Again, we just don't think Alexander Madison's all that good, and Chandler continues to get in there. Also, one other name that isn't mentioned that's kind of interesting is Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, in Buffalo, in Buffalo, like,
Now you're speaking my language.
Now, we're talking deep leagues.
Michael's face lit up.
Right. Like, again, Joe Brady takes over the offense and Ty Johnson suddenly gets work.
Yeah.
James Cook has been.
And it wasn't just garbage time work.
No, it certainly was not as well. And so you wonder if, Ty Johnson continues to earn a bigger role on this Bills offense as Latavius Murray is, Latavius Murray. And,
Can I give you another one?
Yeah, go for it.
Dearness Johnson.
Yeah, hey now. Jacksonville backup, who was good. Obviously, he's sort of past Tank Bigsby to be the insurance running back behind Travis Etienne. I like Dearness Johnson. You picked him up in our league, right? In our show league, was that you?
I did.
I saw
on
that.
brand.
I grabbed him in a couple
on
leagues
brand.
as well. Yeah.
It is on brand. All right, we want to move on to some wide receivers. We talked a lot about Odell Beckham, Demario Douglas. Hopefully we can get some production out of him or anybody in that game. To your point earlier, Lawrence, Zay Jones, again, active. Tutu Atwell, kind of been an afterthought when both Kupp and Puka active. But Jay, you talking up Khalil Shakir in his Eagles matchup earlier.
Yeah, they've been playing three wide receivers more often together in formation, the Bills recently, and this Eagles secondary has just really struggled all season. These Slay and Bradbury have not been playing to the same level. Shakir, I think he's just really good, and I think that Allen has got more of a rapport with him, and I think they're going to be throwing a lot today, so I think Shakir is more viable than one would expect.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And look, we've talked about this. I know you're not excited about the Patriots offense, but Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas right there, he can play, and he is their lead wide receiver, and they're going to throw.
Yeah.
So I do think he is somebody who's talented. Go a little bit deeper as well. A couple of guys that aren't on this screen that I'll mention if you need to go even deeper.
Please.
I know you're always listening, right?
I like this.
Justin Watson, I know he had some bad drops, but he also got double-digit targets from Patrick Mahomes. Again, Kadarius Toney is not playing today. Mecole Hardman's out as well. Watson could become the lead wide receiver of the Chiefs. It doesn't seem like it's happening for Rashee Rice. I thought it was. I think it still should.
Yeah.
But, they continue to go to Watson. And then I'll also mention A.T. Perry. Him and
Michael Thomas down.
with Michael Thomas down. Perry and Rashid Shaheed, we've talked about this. They just don't want to go to Shaheed full time because of his special team usage. So in New Orleans, A.T. Perry is a guy
I
out
will
there
raise
as well.
you with Trenton Irwin,
Sure.
which real boy Jake Browning.
Jake Browning,
No
look
T.
for him quite a
Higgins.
bit.
There you
Yep. There you go.
All right, and lastly, let's get these QBs and tight ends together. Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew, you already talked about as a nice streaming option. Derek Carr against the Falcons. And look, tight end one in Baltimore is Isaiah Likely, probably the only tight end handcuff anybody carries. And then going back to that Bucs-Colts matchup with Cade Otton. So Baker Mayfield, Cade Otton, Bucs-Colts could be sneaky sexy when it comes to fantasy.
Yeah, I think so, particularly with Gardner Minshew, because we've seen what teams have done to this Bucs pass defense in particular. Brock Purdy has a perfect game. CJ Stroud throws for 1,000,000 yards against them. It's just not a very good secondary at the moment, and conversely, is an excellent run defense, as we talked about before. So it's just a dream matchup for Minshew.
It's a reason why this game is 44.5. The Colts are -2.5. That tells you higher score game between not usually starting quarterbacks, possibly a shootout.
3 of the last 4 to face the Buccaneers have scored at least 25 fantasy points. 3 of the last 4 quarterbacks, I should say. And worth noting, since week 11, Baker Mayfield's the 11th best quarterback in fantasy. So
been
again, you've
good.
got two guys that,
Yeah.
or they can put up some fantasy points here in this one.
Only question that Joseph has, Pat Fryermuth or Cade Otton? He unfortunately lost Mark Andrews and didn't get likely on waivers.
Yeah, I mean, God, I'm gonna say.
Damn.
I'm gonna say Cade Otton.
Well, tell him when you
would
got him
say
back
too.
to back.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm sitting here looking at it. I have Cade Otton at 12. I have Fryermuth at 13. So it is a coin flip. So I get the question, Joseph. I'll just say that I preferred Cade Otton just because I think that's a better offense, right? I just think they're going to be throwing more often, and I think they'll be scoring more. I think there's more opportunities, like however many touchdowns the Buccaneers get. I think they'll have more touchdowns than the Steelers, so there's a chance that Cade Otton's got one of those versus Fryermuth, who we still haven't seen it back. Like, we're excited about the potential of this non-Matt Canada offense, but it also might be rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, right? So Cade Otton would be, again, it's a coin flip, but I'm going to go with Cade Otton.
Okay. Next question comes from Robbie Spears. Puka Nacua or Joe Mixon? Must-win week for him, and this flex has him flipping back and forth every 5 minutes. I know the feeling.
I get that, man. I get that.
Yeah,
It depends. Here's what I would say. It depends on how else the rest of your team is. It depends on whether you're up or down after Thanksgiving. Again, we've just had 4 games played, so there's a chance that you have either you're up big or you're down big, or you have a better sense of your matchup now than you normally would on a Sunday morning. I think Joe Mixon is the floor play. I think Joe Mixon's getting 20 touches. Don't love the matchup with Pittsburgh. He hasn't been super inefficient recently, and of course with Jake Browning, we expect that offense to take a step back. But he's getting 20 touches. Right, barring an injury, Joe Mixon is getting. Puka could be awesome. Cooper Kupp's less than 100% when he went out last week. I mean, Puka had a nice game last week, but we've also seen recently both these guys. One has a game, one doesn't, and so if you're telling me like Puka's the upside play, and I think Mixon's the floor play. So to me, depending on what you need, I'm probably going Mixon there. I think he's probably the safer play there, but I get the question.
Ooh, I love this. Keeper league trade. Rather have Tony Pollard or Josh Jacobs moving forward? Jay, you want to take that one?
I think still Tony Pollard for me. He's looked a lot better the past 2 weeks. I think last week in particular, or against the Commanders on Thanksgiving, just looks more explosive. And people forget with Pollard, he broke his leg in January. So it would make sense that he'd be slow getting into the season. So I would probably rather have Pollard, also a bit more faith in the Cowboys offense than the Raiders offense.
I would, by the way, not only that, but just you think about each of these guys' career. Josh Jacobs has had a massive workload every year of his career. Tony Pollard's been behind Ezekiel Elliott until this past year. So just in terms of, if you're thinking keepers and long terms and everything like that, I feel like, Pollard probably, has had less works to date.
Yeah, it's the offense for the Cowboys here for me. We don't know where Josh Jacobs is going to be next season.
John Wick, full PPR, pick one. Jalen Warren, Kyron Williams. Probably not going to be Justin Jefferson.
Probably
so
not gonna be Justin.
Process of elimination, we're good there. Because even if Justin Jefferson were to play on Monday night, he's questionable. No indication that he is going to return on Monday night. You're not taking that chance when your options are Jalen Warren and Kyron Williams, correct?
That's correct. And so here's what I would say. Just in general, if I had Justin Jefferson, he's officially listed as questionable. The expectation here is that he's not going to play. The Vikings have a bye next week. So, and they're rolling. It's like it's not a desperate, tough loss last week against Denver, but still Minnesota's in good shape to make the playoffs. And so I think given how important Justin Jefferson is, my guess is that they take him easy, that they feel like they can probably get by Chicago without him. Then he's got the bye, and then he's back, and he's fully, and he's Justin Jefferson.
And it sounds
again.
like it's really up to him. Like he sounds like he's not going to rush himself back.
Yeah, which makes a ton of sense, obviously, especially given he's got a big contract that he wants, and anyway, blah blah blah. So I would say this: if I had Justin Jefferson on my team, and I had the ability to pick somebody else on Monday night, if I had a pivot, that I might do that. But barring like a viable pivot on Monday night on your bench, then I think you're just saying like, in your case, John, because you have two good guys in Warren and Williams, I'm not risking one of those, sitting both those guys with the hope that Jefferson plays. For me, it's Jalen Warren. I'm at 14. I have Kyron Williams at 15. So again, this is a coin flip call for me, but we've seen it more recently from Warren. Like, he's been as good as any running back in football the last couple of weeks. And the change in offense coordinator, it's their old running backs coach, is the new OC. So you feel like that bodes well for Jaylen Warren. You heard me and Lawrence, we both really like Kyren Williams today. It's a great matchup against Arizona, but it is his first game back. So coin flip, but just because we've seen it more recently from Warren than we have from Williams, that's where I'm going as well. It's, and by the way, you're like, well, but what about Cincinnati? Cincinnati's, over the last month, Cincinnati's the 24th ranked run defense. They haven't been great defensively. That's the other thing. So it's not as scary a matchup as you might think as initially.
And one last thing on Jefferson. Even if he is a surprise active and he does play, you playing him his first game back, you think if they put him out there, they're going to put him out there and give him a full workload too? It's just too many variables when it comes to Justin Jefferson.
I think I would play. I mean,
you would play him anyway? If he's
Vikings,
active, you playing him.
They're not going to risk him to be a decoy, I don't think.
No, I'm not saying decoy.
I understand.
It could be on a snap count type thing,
He's one of those guys that only needs one play.
Yeah, that's true. So does Jaylen Warren, to your point. That's why you're playing him.
This is true.
All right, y'all ready to throw some footballs in this? And connect?
Obviously.
And Lawrence is going to connect. The rest of us, I'm not so sure.
I hit mine last week.
Oh, well done, Matthew.
Interception. You really going to take credit for an interception?
Threw a pick.
You know what?
I threw a catchable ball.
They need to change the label of that. They need to change the label because it's like if you hit any of these, that's an accomplishment.
Thank you
They gotta switch that up. I don't even like the field goal one up there.
Yeah, but I'm getting
why
up
is that
because
up top?
once I stand, it's better.
You follow through.
Yeah,
One
it's
for
follow
one?
through. See,
Look at
that.
was your worst throw of the season.
That's not true.
I think it was.
Oh, wow, you really whipped it.
Come on.
Hey, you got cute on that one. You did have
I'm
the
just
same
trying to
touch.
get you. Gotta the velocity is.
So now y'all, it's all off.
Come on.
There you go,
that's how you
touchdown.
do it.
Hold the pose.
There you go. I threw another pick. by the
Michael
way.
Smith holding the pose.
All right.
You are QB1 this
All
week.
right, I got it this week. All right, proper shot time, baby. Jay, lead us off. Odell Beckham receptions over under 3.5.
Going over, a little concerned about the shoulder, but he's effectively Lamar's 1B option against a really poor pass defense. He'll go over.
Lawrence, Justin Fields passing yards over under 192.5.
I'm going to go over. He didn't get this last game. It was his first game back, but Minnesota's allowing at least 200. They're allowing 252 passing yards per game over the last 5. I think Justin Fields will hit that.
Matthew, Jonathan Taylor rushing yards over under 79.5.
I'm taking the under. He's gone over this number just one game this entire season as well. Tampa Bay, I think, is a better run defense. I do think Zach Moss gets more involved.
Do you?
Yeah, a little bit. I think Taylor still gets the majority of the work, and fantasy-wise, you're going to want Taylor, but I think it's more passing game involvement. I'm taking the under on 79.5 rushing yards for JT today.
It's an encouraging note on Moss. I was thinking about dropping him or trading him or something. Jay, George Pickens receiving yards over under 43.5.
Going over, no Cam Taylor Britt, and this Bengals team's been giving up a ton of explosive pass plays. Pickens only needs one for this.
Lawrence, Josh Jacobs rushing attempts over under 16.5.
I'm going to actually go under. Now, Jacobs himself could get 15 or 27, but teams versus the Chiefs have only went over this twice this season. It's like when teams play the Chiefs, they feel a need to try to keep up. 2 running backs have done that this season, go over 16 carries. They weren't successful. I'm going under.
Matthew, Ramondre Stevenson's receptions over under 2.5.
I'm going over. He's had at least 3 receptions in 4 of the past 5 games. And I also just think with the musical chairs at quarterback, we're expecting to see both Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. Just, hey, get a couple of easy receptions. Just check it down to the running back. 5 straight games now with a target share of at least 14% for Ramondre Stevenson as well. So he's part of the game plan.
Jay, Trevor Lawrence passing yards over under 257.5.
Yeah, another over for me, Lawrence. He just looked healthier last week, had more spring in his step. And I also think that the Texans, the nature of their offense is when they score quickly. And so I think that Lawrence will have the ball plenty enough against an unimposing Texans defense.
Lawrence, Alvin Kamara's scrimmage yards over under 89.5.
He hasn't done this his last 2 games, but he's done it in the 4 games straight before that. The Falcons have allowed this 3 out of the last 4 games to Derrick Henry, Rashad White, and Alexander Madison. So I'm going over.
Matthew, Kyler Murray's passing and rushing yards over under 256.5.
I'm going over. First off, he's gone over this number in both games that he's played so far this year. He's averaging 42 rushing yards per game, and they're underdogs to the Rams. he's going to have to be throwing and running to keep the Cardinals in this one.
Jay, Taysom Hill's rushing yards over under 18.5.
Going under. He only had 1 carry last game. Atlanta have an elite run defense. I think this is going to be more of a throwing game for the Saints.
Have we figured out a rhyme or reason for their usage for Taysom Hill?
No, it's infuriating.
All right, cool. Lawrence, DeAndre Hopkins receiving yards over under 59.5.
Well, I think this one's going to be a running game versus the Panthers, who allowed the 6 fewest points to receivers. He had 59 yards in Week 11, but 43 of that was on a touchdown when they was down by almost 30 points. It's going to be close, but I'm going to go under.
All right, and finally, Matthew, Jalen Hurts' passing and rushing yards over under 283.5.
I'm going to go under. First off, he's been under 250 passing and rushing yards in back-to-back games here. He hasn't been running this year. That's the thing. He doesn't look right. No. And so in a game in which they're playing the Bills, I think this is you mentioned the bad weather as well. We don't expect it to be great. Over-under is 48.5. Yeah. I kind of like the under in this game. I think this is going to be a tougher defensive battle than people are thinking. I don't think it's going to be a shootout. I do like Jay's call. I do think the Bills win, but give me the under on Jalen Hurts passing and rushing yards of 283.5.
Yeah, Hurts will get you a 1-yard push touchdown, but rushing yards,
he's not getting a ton of rushing yards.
Yeah.
So.
Don't forget, on DraftKings Sportsbook this season, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $150 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Download the app and use the promo code Barry when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. When we come back, we're going to dive deep into the rankings, and Jamar Chase ready to catch 12 balls for, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns just because dumbass Michael was talking about not playing him. That's my guy. C.J. Stroud. Not pictured. I'm sure he's throwing it to Tank Dell.
He's always throwing it to
And
Tank
Nico
Dell.
Collins. And
of
Robert
course.
Woods. And Dalton Schultz as he's about to light up.
And Andre Johnson.
Right.
Yeah.
Stop.
About to light up the Jacksonville Jaguars.
He's gonna look. He's
Is he
gonna
gonna tank because we're
it-
talking
no,
about
it's,
this?
he's gonna throw to Tank. He's gonna throw to Nico.
Yeah.
He's gonna throw to Dalton. He's gonna wave at Robert Woods. He's gonna like dap him up on the sidelines.
Say,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, well, that was a
throwing
good
the
throw,
doozy.
right? Hey, nice block.
Honestly, the main thing is don't throw it to the other team. Like, he
Yeah,
uncharacteristically threw a lot
Yeah,
of
that
picks
was
last week.
bad picks.
Right.
But you heard what he said, though. He said, hey, that don't mean nothing.
I'm
I
going to
just
keep
come
slinging
back
that
and
thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what kind of adjustments Jacksonville makes, though, given that they are seeing him for a second time, Matthew.
This is
Yeah.
the first time as well. I think anyone's seeing Stroud for a second time too. Rookie quarterback, you always expect that. I think the thing is that Stroud's gotten so much better because he's made adjustments to
Yeah.
the league. But how will the league adjust to him now that he's a bona fide superstar?
Also, by the way, the Jaguars secondary banged up, and it's a really good matchup here. Last 4 weeks, Jacksonville allow passing touchdowns at the highest rate in the NFL. Teams facing the Jaguars average the third most pass attempts in the NFL, and so
Do they still lead the league in picks, the
Huh?
Jags?
I do
At
not
one
believe
point,
so.
okay. At one
And
point they
and
did,
at home this year, when C.J. Stroud has been playing at home, and this game is in Houston, he's averaging 22.9 fantasy points per game. He's had multiple touchdown passes in every single game he's played in Houston. Yeah, C.J. Stroud is my QB4 this week. I think he has a big game, and I think Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Dalton Schultz are all a big reason why.
Are you really going to go with Dell and Guillotine? Or
Yeah, maybe.
you're gonna-
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
look
is
through
not
it.
an answer.
Well, I could do him over Puka. Look, my team is ridiculous in this league. You
I'd get rid
understand?
of Puka.
Huh?
I'd get rid of Puka.
For Tank.
Puka might be a little. Yeah, I might get rid of Puka. Yeah, I'm gonna put him in there for Puka. How about that? You done? You done looking? You done grading my homework, professor? Over here, look at this. I
No,
got
I'm
Fantasy
just
professor,
No, it's just
Michael
another
Smith.
league that I'm not in. That's all. I
That's
wasn't
right.
invited
Again, Steven D'Agostino. Like, I have a text chain that proves you were invited.
to. I have texts that say otherwise.
Okay.
Like, what about? I have evidence too. I
All
got
right, let's
receipts.
see that. All right, let's
you
go.
know?
Let's see. Let's get an investigation
Moving right
going.
along. Lamar Jackson. Oh, I've got a
Investigation
question
going.
before we get to Lamar Jackson.
Believe me, you think I want Producer Pete in this dumb league? Producer Pete, in our show league, Producer Pete has 4 quarterbacks. It's a super flex league. It's a super flex league, and so quarterbacks are at a premium.
And he's hogging all
of them.
Cornering the market on
Yeah,
frozen
man,
concentrated orange
He's
juice.
5 and 7.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah.
So can you kick out Producer Pete and put me in this guillotine
Yeah,
league?
next year, 100%.
right.
That's being done. He's starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson today. Producer Pete is. I swear to God.
Down bad.
I mean, I'm starting Jake Browning, but yeah.
Eric's
I might be
got-
better because I put in a bid on Kenny Pickett and he got
Who I
him.
dropped, by the way.
I should have traded him to me. I'd have given you
No,
something for Kenny
nobody
Pickett.
trades in this godforsaken
I
league.
know. It's all Producer Pete's fault.
Eric only has 2 premier quarterbacks to choose from. First
Yeah.
world problem. C.J. Stroud over Patrick Mahomes. Like, wow, this is where we are in life. But it's a legitimate question. I feel like the answer's Stroud, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have Stroud at 4, I have Mahomes at 5. So yes, believe it. I mean, like, Mahomes has not been good.
go with
Mahomes,
that.
I believe, is I think on the season he's QB 9. So I mean, like, Mahomes has been fine, but he hasn't been Mahomes. And so, honestly, given how well that defense is playing, could you see a scenario where Aiden O'Connell throws a pick 6 or 2? Could you see? I think it's a big Pacheco game. No Jerick McKinnon for this one as well. So if the Raiders can't keep it competitive, maybe they just lean on their run game. Again, I have Mahomes at 5. I think he's actually going to be fine. And after last week, he'll want to come up and make a statement. But we love C.J. Stroud. Love him at home. Love him in this matchup. Yeah. So I am. That's the world we live in. C.J. Stroud over Patrick Mahomes, which is a crazy question to think about that at the beginning of the year.
Certainly.
Yep. All right, moving on to Lamar Jackson. Lawrence, what you got?
I'm looking at your quarterback. One, you have Matthew. You have Lamar there for this weekend. I think we might be on the verge of one of them, Lamar primetime legacy games, like when versus the Browns a couple years back when he ran out the tunnel. Mark, we don't want to know why he ran out the tunnel. We hit Marquise Brown touchdown or the comeback against the Colts last season. quarterback 4 in week 11 after he hadn't thrown a touchdown pass in what seemed like forever. We know the Chargers allow the 3rd most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, and Jordan Love was just quarterback 9 against them. Mahomes was QB1 when they played him. Dak was QB1. So I think you're going to hit here with Lamar Jackson being quarterback 1 versus the Chargers.
All right, I like that. Jay, I like to see Josh Allen having fun.
Yeah, he seemed to get back to being himself against the Jets. And I think Josh Allen is the 2nd best quarterback in football, which might be a minority opinion after some of the struggles that he's had lately. But I would only take Mahomes over Allen in real-life football. And in fantasy and in real life, today I think he's going to be a monster against an Eagles secondary that's really struggled. I think he goes off, and I think he's a top 2 quarterback this week.
Okay.
Love the call. And it's one of the reasons why we were so excited to have Josh Allen as an investor in FantasyLife.com. Yeah, exactly. So, because...
Just couldn't get Mahomes.
Huh? We don't need Mahomes. We got Burrow and Allen. Mahomes who?
I'm trying to decide what was better, the timing or the delivery.
I was waiting for it.
Because I didn't think that's what you were going to say.
I thought you were going to love Bill's money line or something.
Right. He's like, it's why we were so pleased. Like, that was a straight commercial right there.
1,000%.
That was awesome.
Says the man in a sweatshirt for the Dynasty Exchange. By the way, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Clipping that off.
Yep.
All right. Moving on a little deeper. Oh, yes or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
Good.
A little deeper at quarterback. So, all right, make it about me real quick. I just traded Gardner Minshew in Dynasty. I had like a bunch of extra quarterbacks. I traded him for your man, Curtis Samuel.
Interesting.
But now I'm just like, damn, man, Gardner Minshew, especially with this playoff schedule, but starting today with Tampa Bay, it's like, might have a favorable schedule down the stretch.
I think he does. By the way, I'm just, real quickly, but Dynasty Exchange, so this is Michael's podcast. He does. It's entirely about Michael's Dynasty League, just so you know. Real talk, I was a guest on the show. The guys know what they're talking about. It's a fun show for absolutely. But I literally think Michael decided to produce the show and be on it because entirely so he could just has people that have to answer his Dynasty questions at all times every hour.
That's not entirely false. I think it's my favorite format. If you give me a guillotine. But you're
then you're going to start the Guillotine podcast.
I might,
exactly.
but you're talking to somebody who grew up, and I say grew up, I'm really talking about into my 40s, like spending hours on end in franchise mode in Madden. Yeah. Dynasty has replaced franchise mode.
So you don't play that no more?
I gave up that narcotic.
I still do.
I don't blame you. The only reason I don't is because I'm married, and if I wanted to stay married, I had to leave my basement.
My wife got to understand. She understands. My daughter start cheering for my teams. That's how she knows.
Yes, well done. Well done.
That's good.
My daughters have started Fortnite now. My daughters have started playing Fortnite.
Oh, yeah.
They're really good at it.
Yeah.
And they're like, Dad, I won the Battle Royale. I'm like, you did? Like you played for like a week? And I'm like, I have to watch you play.
Wait, you play it too?
No. I mean, a little bit with them, but not like a real gamer. What they do is they get into the land or whatever you want to call it, and then they hide. That's what they do. They literally hide until there's like 3 people left, and then they're snipers. And then it's like, I'm like, I think this goes against the spirit of Fortnite.
That's how I would play.
Yeah, anyway. What's your gamer tag on for Madden? Anyone wants to challenge you?
No.
Okay. Wow.
Probably Lord Don't Lose.
Yeah, it should be Lord Don't Lose.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Lord doesn't want the smoke.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you who also doesn't want the smoke.
I'll come back to Madden. I'll come back.
Yeah. I'll tell you who else doesn't want the smoke, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I do have Gardner Minshew. We've mentioned him a few times throughout the show. I'm at QB 12. He made the love list and others receiving votes this week. Again, Buccaneers, over the last 4 weeks, no team in the NFL has given up more passing yards per game than Tampa Bay. 3 of the last 4 quarterbacks to face this Buccaneers defense have scored at least 25 fantasy points or not more. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. The Colts are. This is an important game for the Colts to try to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. They're still, quote, in the hunt. I always laugh at the people on the graphic when they're in the hunt, but they are in the hunt. And so I do think Minshew, who gets a few points with his legs, and I don't think they're going to be able to run that successfully against the Buccaneers. So it's all going to be Minshew and his arm. Give me Minshew as a top 12 quarterback today.
Jay, Russell Wilson will never be comeback player of the year, but he kind of sort of belongs in the conversation.
Yeah, he's got an argument for second or third, I think. And It's
The
just
Renaissance.
the Renaissance. Yeah, it has been Renaissancing a bit lately.
I mean, he came back, like most comeback player of the year come back from like, illness or sickness or injury.
Being shot.
Yeah. He came back from BS.
I know, he's like
he came back from being bad.
That's why you can't beat DeMar Hamlin. DeMar Hamlin came back from the dead. Russell Wilson came back from mediocrity. It's self-enforced.
Right.
But he's just been solid lately, and he's been the guy that I think that people hoped that he would be at the start of this season when you got kind of rid of the idea that he's going to be back to MVP candidate Russ from the Seattle days. I think that guy's just gone. But this is a big game against Cleveland because it's a good story at the moment. Now he gets the best defense in football, so let's see what he does against Myles Garrett and co. Because I think everything's on the table. Maybe he'll just play really well.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll turn back into the guy from last year.
Yeah, and listen, Cleveland does that to people.
I think they're making a run here.
Yeah, you called that last week.
They have
You
a
called that last week that they were
really
making a playoff
easy
run.
schedule.
You said that before they beat Minnesota.
And when we're talking about quarterbacks here, Matthew talked about Gardner Minshew. Opposite of that is Baker Mayfield. You mentioned Russell Wilson. There's a lot of quarterbacks that we're probably starting, but not ideally. And then Will Levis comes in there. You have him against the Panthers, which might seem like a good matchup on paper, but that's more towards the Panthers' run defense. So I think like Jay said earlier, he likes Derrick Henry this week. I do as well. But Dak Prescott was quarterback 17 last week against this Panthers defense. C.J. Stroud, who we all love, we mentioned that a lot, he was quarterback 23 versus this Panthers defense, and they actually lost the game. The Panthers defense hasn't given up 200 passing yards since week 6, and that was Tua. So don't expect a lot of scoring, but expect them to be able to run the ball on Carolina. So if you're thinking about Levis, it's cool, but try to find an option like a Gardner Minshew or a Baker Mayfield first.
I'm thinking to myself that quarterback is a new running back these days. Speaking of running backs, let's lead off with Derrick Henry, who Jay already called in his shot for the day for 100 yards.
I think Jay's going to be smart on that one. No team in the NFL has allowed more rushing touchdowns to running backs than the Carolina Panthers. They've given up at least one in 8 out of 10 games. They also allow the second most rush yards per game and the 4th highest yards per carry to running backs. I think his over-under is something in the 60s. I took
69.5.
69.5, way too low. I took the alt line at 90, at plus money, just because I think if he hits, he's not going to hit 70 yards. It's either going to be like 100, 120 yards or not. But running backs that have gotten at least 15 carries against the Panthers are averaging over 22 fantasy points per game. I think King Henry has a huge game today. He's my running back 6. I think Jay is smart on this one.
Yeah. All right. Lawrence, take the ball and run with it, a la DeAndre Swift.
DeAndre Swift was running back 9 against Kansas City, who has a top 5 defense. Buffalo, it was you, Matthew, that said you expect this to go under, expect it to be a defensive game. I definitely agree with that. Maybe a little bit harder to run on Buffalo, but they've allowed the second most receiving yards to running backs in their recent games. Breece Hall, 5 receptions, 50 yards. Ramondre Stevenson, 6 for 51. Rashad White, 7 for 70. And we saw the Eagles last game against the Chiefs. They start running that middle screen with DeAndre Swift, so maybe that's how he gets his money today.
All right. Jay, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, interesting matchup for Jonathan Taylor. Not a particularly good one against the Bucs, but he really took over the workload entirely last game. We had 23 carries, he had 18 carries the week before. So Jonathan Taylor is now, is he back to just being the guy from 2021 who's just going to get an absolute workload all the time? I think that he is the kind of guy that I would hope has a bad week this week and then trade for him, because I think that it's a really tough matchup, but it seems like he's back to being clearly the guy in Indianapolis.
I like you thinking there. All right, a little bit deeper in these running back rankings. Ramondre Stevenson, how you like him in this matchup against the Giants, Matthew?
I think it'd be all right. I mean, look, it's a good matchup against the Giants, right? They've allowed 140 scrimmage yards per game to opposing running backs. They've allowed at least 100 rushing yards to running backs in 9 out of 11 games so far this year. And Ramondre Stevenson, as we talked about in Prop Shot, he's gotten a target share of at least 14% in 5 straight games. And so I think there's a chance Ezekiel Elliott gets into the end zone instead of Ramondre on this one. But given that, again, we have 8 teams that are no longer included in the rankings, Stevenson comes in as my running back 12 for today and Monday night. Again, these rankings reflect just the players that are still left to play.
Jay, I want to hone in on running back 18 with you. Jerome Ford, who I like to have a big game against Denver. Denver's pretty generous against running backs.
They are very generous against running backs. And all their numbers are skewed by that Miami game. But even outside of the Miami game, they're not very good as a run defense. They've really struggled lately. And now Jerome Ford, who was able to go for over 100 yards against the Ravens on the ground, which no one does historically. And he was able to do that. And then last week, not as good of a performance. He only had 12 carries, which is the same as Kareem Hunt, which is a bit of a concern. But something I think went under the radar because he didn't catch any of the passes. He was targeted 5 times by DTR, and that makes sense. The DTR, young quarterback, will dump off, and I think Jerome Ford will be the beneficiary of that.
Jalen Warren is just damn good. Any other way to put it other than that? Like, he's just a damn good running back.
I hope Jalen Warren get at least 12 carries this game, because you remember last week he only had 9 carries. He went for 129, which led to him being running back 2 on the week against the Cleveland Browns defense. Here's another number for you. Najee Harris this season. Jay's boy Najee Harris, 499 rushing yards. Jalen Warren, 493 rushing yards. Najee Harris's carries, 128 to Jalen Warren's 80. Jalen Warren's also their 3rd leading receiver, so just get the man the damn ball.
You ever see, like, you know what I love is those efficiency graphs where it's like a cluster of running backs here and Jalen Warren's way up there on the right. Like, it's just, these metrics are.
Jalen Warren might be like the 4th best running back in football. We just don't know because he hasn't gotten the work.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Luigi, Dobby, and friends. Full PPR. Flex 1, Hopkins, Singletary, or Shaheed. He messed up and sat Laporta.
All right.
Am I Dobby in this?
Yes, obviously.
I'm going to say that's you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Do
exactly.
you think?
And Michael and Lawrence are friends. So
Yeah.
Do you think?
Hopkins.
No. No, your thing.
Hey, it's me. Hey, what's going on?
Okay.
It's a Dobby.
There you go.
It's a Dobby.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah, here's a sock of Dobby.
I hope you don't use that voice on the boat with your wife.
He does.
Listen, we've been married a long time. I'll just leave it at that. All right. Boy, I don't love any of these guys, but I'm going to go with DeAndre Hopkins there. Again, I'm nervous about Singletary with the. With Pierce there, Levis he will take at least a couple of deep shots here. I mean, I don't know.
Is Shaheed just going to go off now that Michael Thomas is gone? Is he just going to be like a legit?
He's playing half the time, and that's why A.T. Perry is
Why is
there
A.T.
as well.
Perry a thing?
But he is.
I know, but it's very strange.
He absolutely is a thing.
Shaheed's awesome. I don't
Yeah, they
understand why
just need a
he's-
guy to back up come behind Michael Thomas as to Shaheed doesn't exactly fill that particular role.
Yeah.
The Panthers have actually been pretty good against the pass, which makes me nervous about Hopkins here. And Singletary will get at least half the work in a high-scoring game. But the Jaguars are, they're a top 10 run defense, and
Shaheed.
I'm
Atlanta
not-
pass funnel.
it's not a
Shaheed
pass
the
funnel,
dream.
He's going to play the least amount of snaps. He's going to get the least amount of targets. He is one guy that can only make, he can make your day with one play. They're playing Atlanta. I hate this one. I'm gonna. I will say DeAndre Hopkins. I'll say DeAndre Hopkins.
I would go Hopkins.
Yeah, I just think he's the best player of the 3.
He's the safest one. I would go Shaheed. I think
Not
there's
only-
a lot of upside. With,
Not only do
Thompson.
we answer more questions than anybody, we stress over your decisions.
Yes.
I'm thinking.
Like,
right,
I mean, we
you
really,
think
like, we
about it,
really,
right?
like,
I mean,
Luigi
we're
and Dobby,
invested.
very stressed.
We are
Very
invested
very
in
stressed.
your
Very
Look,
stressed.
success.
I will say this again, but I do think that if you're asking me, one of these guys has just a monster game. You could see it being Shaheed. He just plays such limited snaps and like.
Coming out of the bye, maybe they figured out that they need to play their best players a bit more.
No, you'd think, but no. Like,
Yeah, they
honestly,
don't.
they can barely get the ball to Chris Olave.
The thing with these guys like Shaheed, Rashee Rice is the same thing, where we see their best plays, but if you actually watch the tape of Rashee Rice, he's not a great route runner yet. He's a rookie, and it makes sense. He's unrefined. He's not open that much. And Shaheed, I'm sure that Dennis Allen is seeing something with him where he's like he doesn't trust him to run the amount of
Well,
snaps.
and also they play because he's valuable on special teams. They don't want to give him a full snap count. I know,
Find
but
someone else on special teams.
I'm with you. I'm just telling you. I'm not saying I agree with it.
You gonna tell my man to hit the waiver wire?
I'm saying Hopkins. I'm making. It's a little bit of a coin flip. It's honestly going to be which one gets in the end zone, but I'm just going to say Hopkins. I think Hopkins has the most guaranteed volume. He has the best combination of guaranteed volume plus matchup. Because even though Carolina's been good against, they're not great.
They're not good, though. They're
Right.
good because teams get up 30 on them.
And they're running on them. Yeah, exactly. So.
And the Titans probably won't get up 30 because they're not great.
Right. They're not they face among the fewest, if not the fewest,
Yeah.
pass attempts in the
The
league.
truth of the matter is that what he should have done is he should have just started Laporta. That's what you should have done. So if we screw this up for you, it's not our fault. It's really yours for benching Laporta in the first place and putting us in this awful position of making this call.
So hey,
We love you. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
We've
Forget
talked
about
about motorboating. We have not talked about tag teaming. So,
We have not.
Matthew and Jay,
Yeah.
you got a tag team this
Come on.
Vikings
Yeah.
backfield.
Yeah,
Jay, Matthew, you take Alexander Madison. Jay, you take Ty Chandler.
it. Troubling.
Absolutely.
Troubling.
yeah. This reminds me of our one night in Buffalo.
Yes.
I'll just say this. I don't like Alexander Madison. And
As a man?
No, he's a lovely human being, I'm sure. I've never met the guy. I'm just saying, as a running back this week in fantasy football, in a week in which 8 teams have already played, he's still only running back 23 for me. Do you understand how low I had to have him for him to only be up to running back 23 with 8 teams out? It's not a good matchup against the Bears. Chicago allows 3.4 yards per carry to opposing running backs. That's lowest in the NFL. Since week 5, Chicago's allowed the fewest rushing yards to opposing running backs. Madison, he played these Bears in week 6. He had 18 carries for 44 yards, 2.4 yards per carry. And we've talked about this. We think Ty Chandler actually looks better. By the way, now they've got a mobile quarterback in Josh Dobbs. At least, when Kirk Cousins was there, like, well, it's probably going to either be, him or Cam Akers at the time. But because Dobbs is such a threat around the goal line as well, so he's competing with 2 other guys for goal line touches in a bad matchup here. No.
Here's what's going to happen. Alexander Madison's first 5 carries are going to go for 8 yards, and they'll bring in Ty Chandler and to break off an 8-yarder, and then Madison will come back in because he's better in pass protection. But I do think Chandler, just with the nature of the matchup, the fact that the Bears are such a good run defense, particularly against the kind of more, traditional running back in Alexander Madison, I do think Chandler, as the change of pace guy, does have a bit more upside, a bit more scope in the passing game as well, I think.
All right. So to recap on my big decision of the day.
Yeah.
You guys have told me to start Keaton Mitchell over Tajay Spears, Khalil Shakir, and Pop Douglas. Lawrence, I go to you for my Keaton Mitchell information. Tell me something good about our boy Keaton Mitchell.
It'd be nice if they could get him involved in the receiving game like they did the previous week against Cleveland. Just a little bit they did, and what did he do?
32 yards.
Right, show that he was explosive. The Chargers have allowed the 2nd most receptions and 3rd most receiving yards to running backs this season. So, if, Pollard went 6 for 80 against them, Gibbs 3 for 35, Dillon 4 for 32. Keaton Mitchell could do that and then some if he just gets the ball. Like the Chargers, what that shows you about the Chargers is that they have trouble rallying to the ball and tackling in space. That's why these running backs, that's why these running backs are able to get the ball in the receiving game and do work. And obviously Jahmyr Gibbs he's something else. That's a different type talent. But if Keaton Mitchell could get this type of work, he could he'll get that 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah. I hope he gets that work and not Justice Hill. No disrespect to Justice Hill.
So you got Keaton Mitchell, Demario Douglas. Who else?
Khalil Shakir and Tajay Spears. It's like my second
I'm
flex.
still going with Mitchell.
Mitchell? Okay, cool.
Douglas might be the other guy, but
Yeah.
I do think Mitchell has the best combination of upside and
Matchup.
talent.
Yeah.
I'm not scared about the Chargers tonight, especially against they're 16th against the run, they're 26th against the pass. Again, I just think,
Okay.
no Joey
And,
Bosa.
and prime time, it's always fun to watch. Prime time. When I'm tuning in to Sunday Night Football starring Matthew Berry.
There you go.
Let's move to wide receivers, leading off with Stephon Diggs.
I think Diggsy has a big game here. I'm with Jay on the Bills not having their way with Philadelphia, but winning this game. I like them +3. I like them to win outright as well, and I like Diggs. Kind of a squeaky wheel narrative if you have, right? He's been back-to-back games with under 35 yards. His brother's tweeting, we got to get him out of here, blah, 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 blah. Exactly. So I think Josh Allen makes a point to go to Diggs early and often against the Eagles defense that's allowed the most fantasy points to wide receivers this year. And they've allowed at least a touchdown to a wide receiver, at least one, in 9 out of 10 games. Every game this year except for one, they've given up at least one touchdown to wide receiver. You feel like it's more likely than not that Diggs would be the guy that gets that. Every wide receiver that's seen at least 7 targets against the Eagles, averaging over 19 fantasy points per game. Why do I say 7 targets? Because there's only one game this year where Diggs hasn't gotten 7 targets. So, yeah, I mean,
That is mathing.
that is some math and math.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I like that.
he is, as we enter today, he's my number 1 wide receiver in fantasy, Diggs.
All right, and on the other side, speaking of squeaky wheels, Jay, was it you who called it as an A.J. Brown week, given that he was a little quiet last week?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think, look, he had 8 yards last week, disaster against Kansas City. But the pick that Hurts threw, like A.J. Brown was wide open for a touchdown if Hurts had one more second to see him change the route. And then also A.J. Brown was open in the end zone again, but was just kind of off balance and just didn't quite get there. So if those 2 catches connect, he's 2 for 70 with, he's 2 touchdowns, 70 yards, and he's fine. So I think A.J. Brown against a Bills secondary that has struggled, he'll get back in form.
All right, and Lawrence, Mr. Quarterback proof himself, Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I think he's back, and you can see that last 2 games, he's got at least 6 catches, 80 yards, and 13 targets in each of his last 2 games. Furthermore, Antonio Pierce said, I know to get my best players the ball. He's been doing it, so I think he's back, and we like him as well. Raiders also 9-point dogs in that game.
All right, back to the rankings and back to that Philly-Buffalo matchup. Matthew, take Devontae Smith for me, will you?
Take him where?
Wherever you want to go. Sounds like you take him as a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, borderline, sure. I'm at wide receiver 12 going in today. I could take him for ice cream. Everyone likes ice cream.
Sure.
What I'll say is that the first game without Dallas Goedert, which was last week against the Chiefs, and he had a 38% target share. In his last 6 games without Dallas Goedert, this is again including last year, he's averaging almost 16 fantasy points per game. He's got a 29% target share in those games. So in a game in which we expect him to have to throw against the Bills, he comes in as a wide receiver 12 for me, top 12 guy today, again, with all the teams on the bye that have already played out of the rankings. Sorry.
Cool. Lawrence, DJ Moore.
Yeah, again, another receiver who I think is back because Justin Fields is back. Wide receiver 6 in week 11, now going against the Vikings, who's allowed a touchdown to a receiver in 3 their last 4 games. They've also allowed the 7th most receiving yards to receivers this season. I don't know. Winning the game is going to be tough, but one thing is for sure, Justin Fields to DJ Moore is going to happen.
Okay. And on the other side, Jay, assuming no Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, who doesn't really feel like Josh Dobbs has that much of a connection with at the moment.
Not really. It's TJ Hawkinson and Dobbs. That's the real connection. But I do think Addison, just by virtue of being wide receiver number 1, still clearly on the team, he should have another good day against the Bears, who really struggle against the pass. And then I think it's trouble for Addison when Jefferson gets back.
Based on true events, needs 2. Ty Chandler, Devin Singletary, or Jordan Addison. Needs 2 of those.
Let's go with the easy one right now, which is I think it's I think Jordan Addison, to me, is the guy here. And as much as we like Ty Chandler, I'm going Devin Singletary. Again, he's been really good the last couple of weeks. Yes, we expect Pierce to be in there, and it's not a great matchup here. But if you're telling me Chandler and Singletary both splitting their roles, like I'd rather be part of the higher scoring game, which is what we expect the Texans-Jaguars game to be.
Let's power through the rest of these wide receivers real quick, starting with the guy I called a big game for earlier, Matthew, Josh Downs.
Yeah, and I think you're going to be right on that, Michael. Last 4 weeks, the prior 4 games, again, they're off a bye, but the last 4 weeks that he's played, 21% target share, averaging 16.6 fantasy points per game. That's weeks 5 through 8. He was wide receiver 13 in fantasy. Buccaneers allowing 230 yards per game to wide receivers. That is most in the NFL. He's my wide receiver 27 today.
Jay, take OBJ.
Yep, so we've spoken about OBJ and Zay Flowers. The sneaky thing with the Chargers, they do have a really solid run defense, so I think Baltimore will have to be throwing, and Zay and Odell will be the beneficiaries.
Lawrence, what about your man Drake London?
Hey, well, look, New Orleans is the top 7 pass defense, but they didn't face a lot of good quarterbacks this year. And today, Marshawn.
Here comes Desmond Ridder.
Here he comes versus a Saints defense without Marshawn Lattimore, and I think that is huge right there.
Mm-hmm. All right, Matthew, Zay Jones is active. How active will he be?
I mean, look, I'm at wide receiver 35 in a week in which we're already taking out the top 8 games that have already played, but he's had multiple red zone targets in 3 out of the 4 games he's played so far this year. Played 63% of the snaps last week in his first game back. So, in a game in which we expect a lot of scoring to happen between Houston and Jacksonville, if you're looking for a wide receiver 4 on this list, he's on this list. He's my wide receiver 35.
There's 2 Bills guys on this particular portion of the list, 31 through 40. How about this? Lawrence, you take Khalil Shakir. Jay, you take Gabe Davis.
Khalil Shakir is actually the one I prefer right now. Now, you might see the 81-yard touchdown last week. Oh, it's a fluke play. Pay attention to this. Week 1 through 4, 19% of the snaps he played. Week 5 through 8, 42.5% of the snaps played. The last 3 games, he's played 73% of the snaps. So
you call that a trend.
That should tell you something more than any numbers.
Yeah.
Should tell you Khalil Shakir, he is in this offense for real.
Yeah, Gabe Davis is getting less real by the week, I think. He had that 9-catch game against the Bucs in that Thursday night game. Outside of that, it just hasn't happened for Gabe Davis. His other 3 most recent games, 2-catch, 1-catch, 0-catch games, which is just a disaster. I think Shakir has kind of supplanted him in the offense.
All right, moving on to tight ends. Matthew, you've already called a big game for David Njoku.
I sure have. Look, it's a great matchup, right? Broncos have allowed the most yards to tight ends this season. Tight ends that have seen at least 6 targets against Denver are averaging 17.3 fantasy points per game. And I think Njoku gets at least 6 targets because in the 2 games that DTR has started this season, Njoku has a 29% target share. Again, Mari Cooper should be shadowed by Patrick Surtain.
And Jay, Travis Kelce is tight end 1, but it's shaky.
It is shaky. He just doesn't look like the same guy. Now, when he played the Raiders last year, he had 4 touchdowns in a game. So I'm sure that he will be fine, but hoping that he can put up the type of performance that he had against the Chargers a few weeks ago, where he looked like just peak Travis Kelce.
And Lawrence, Trey McBride, man, getting fed.
Yeah, he's getting fed, and this week he'll be getting fed against the Rams, who've allowed a touchdown to a tight end in 2 of the last 3 games. He also went 4 catches for 62 yards in the Week 6 game against the Rams, and that was with Zach Ertz. So expect something good from that young man there.
All right, and if you want a little bit deeper at tight end, how about Cade Otton, Matthew?
How about Cade Otton? We answered a question about him, but here's the thing about Cade Otton. Last 3 games, he's gotten 6 red zone targets. He's had at least 4 receptions in 3 of the past 4 games. Again, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball against the Colts that effectively, and they should have to score quite a bit. This has kind of got a sneaky shootout feel to it. So Cade Otton comes in at tight end 12 for me if you're looking for a streamer. You could do worse than Cade Otton.
Yeah, you have Pat Freiermuth. Just a little worse. Just
a little worse.
1 behind Cade Otton, but what do you think about Pat Freiermuth, Lawrence?
You got him right behind him against Cincinnati, who's allowed the 3rd most receiving yards to tight ends this season. So we don't expect it to be a big scoring game, but when you get the young quarterbacks, they usually lean on the tight end, and why not do it versus a team that allows the 4th most fantasy points to the tight end position.
You could also do better than Cade Otton, as in 1 ranking spot better. How about Cole Kmet, Jay?
Yeah, I like Cole Kmet. I know he had a quiet week against the Lions, but his 2 games prior to that with Justin Fields as his quarterback, he went 5 for 42 and a touchdown and 7 for 85 and 2 touchdowns. And against a Minnesota team that just cannot get any pressure without blitzing, I think that it'll be a favorable matchup for Fields and the Bears passing offense.
All right, looking forward to the primetime matchup on NBC. Sunday night, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens take on Justin Herbert and the Chargers, 7 Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Football Night in America featuring Matthew Berry.
Hey now.
Also should be featuring Lawrence Jackson, because no matter the results of the Baltimore Chargers game, folks going to be crying on their knees, sword fighting for their life, defending the honor of Justin Herbert. You should be reading this, not me. You wrote it. Oh, shit, was it weird to read the wrong
when
thing?
you read.
Okay, that aside, he has a big opportunity in front of him on the big stage, or will it be Mom Spaghetti?
Y'all know what Mom Spaghetti mean. Mom
Swamp,
Spaghetti.
your palms are sweaty. Mom Spaghetti.
We gonna see. I think it's gonna be a good game.
That's a good. Could it be as good as that tweet?
Yeah.
Then we're all right.
It'll live up to the tweet. It'll live up to the
Let's
tweet.
go Rabbit.
What was it?
Be
Rabbit.
Rabbit. Be Rabbit.
Be Rabbit. Get your weekdays started right with Bet the Edge. Join Jay and Drew, yes, as they tackle the biggest games from every angle in the NFL, NBA, and more. See, they do the NFL, the NBA, and more.
I mean, whatever.
Okay.
Who listens to it? I don't know.
Basketball.
So whether you're targeting spreads and totals, looking for value in futures markets, or circling player props, Jay and Drew have you covered with new episodes every weekday at 6 a.m. Eastern. That's the
Jay,
best
why
headshot.
isn't Jay should wear a Bet the Edge
Hoodie?
sweatshirt? Yeah. Everyone
Get that
wears sweatshirts of podcasts they're on that aren't this one. That'd be exciting for me.
Well, technically, I'm not on the Dynasty Exchange. I just present it.
You
I
just present
produce
it. Understand? You
Yeah,
produce
just
it.
mastermind
Executive produce it.
behind
Like
it. Yeah.
right. Shine
It's
a light on.
another plug. That's
Fair
all.
enough. I got it.
Listen,
Listen,
you do not need beers to listen
I don't
to
hate
Dynasty
it.
Exchange, by the way, but do you need beers, and how many, if so, to start the following players, scale of 1 to 5? Kyle Pitts, Matthew.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts. God.
Sounds like 5.
No, it's. I don't like Desmond Ridder very much, if I'm being honest. But the fact of the matter is, I'm going to say 1 beer, and I'm going to say 1 beer because Kyle Pitts qualifies at tight end, and I do like. He qualifies at tight end, and I like the matchup against the Saints, who have allowed a touchdown to a tight end in 3 straight, 4 of their past 5. Over the last 4 weeks, they actually allow a league-high 24.3 fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. Is Arthur Smith and Desmond Ridder smart enough to take advantage of this? That is the big question. That is why I want 1 beer. You heard me.
Just 1 beer?
I'll tell you what,
But with
come back
others
with
on
some
standby.
facts that tell me if I'm wrong.
I
Other
can come
beers
back
on
to you with some
Other
Taylor Heineke facts that shows that he did nothing with him either.
Yeah, it's fine.
He's had a couple of good weeks with Desmond Ridder, Kyle Pitts has. The common denominator is Arthur Smith, but hey, this is what we got, Matthew.
Yeah,
Struck
exactly.
a nerve.
Yeah,
He's really can run. He can run
that's
a little
right.
bit.
Find somebody who looks at you the way Lawrence looks at Desmond Ridder.
Like this.
It's a strange hill to die on.
It's a strange.
I mean, if we're talking Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke, there's
Tyler Heineke never had a shot. Never had a real shot. Should have won.
So just one,
super
all that
him.
for just, you sure just 1 beer? You should want some more?
one beer.
All
One
right.
beer, maybe a shot.
You could be sober and
Yeah.
start Kyle Pitts this week.
He's a tight end. He's a tight end in a good
Well,
matchup.
Jay, what about Drake London today?
3 beers for Drake London. I know that Marshall and Lattimore is out, but they still got Paulson Adebo, who's had an amazing season. And with Desmond Ridder at quarterback, not feeling super optimistic about Drake London, but you could probably do worse.
All right, Lawrence, take the Saints side. Rashid Shaheed.
I'm going to say 3 beers from him. It would be less if A.T. Perry didn't play 84% of the snaps in Week 11. Plus, over the last 4 weeks, Rashid Shaheed's snap percentage ranges from 70% to 27%. That's crazy. So I need at least 3 beers.
I've never asked you this. How much do you hate the Saints?
Not that much.
Really?
I'm not like,
You
there's
know,
no.
I'm from New Orleans. Not
Yeah,
a Saints
yeah,
fan, but from New Orleans.
yeah.
There's no rivalry like Saints Falcons.
Yeah, it is to like them people.
Yeah.
But my emotions don't work like that.
Okay, cool.
Lawrence told me he slept like a baby after 28-3.
Yeah, like
He
it
slept
was
like a
probably
baby.
some of the. Like,
the
of
worst
course I
Falcons fan
want,
ever.
of course I wanted them to win, and if they did, I was ready to go.
Yeah.
But I'm like, just the same thing they always do. So it's,
I think 28-3 was as important to Saints fans as it was painful to Falcons
yes.
fans.
I would not, if that was my team, I would not have been able to sleep for like
No, I'm with
Still,
you.
we have nightmares, right?
for like a year.
Yeah. All right, moving on. The Browns fans know all about that. Browns, Broncos, Matthew, Amari Cooper, how many beers?
I need at least 3 beers. I'm nervous about him, man. He's my wide receiver 26 again, with 8 teams have already played and being removed from the lineups. He's in his 2 games that DTR has played, he's got 10 fantasy points. Not 10 each game, 10 total. That's 5 per game. Again, did the math in my head right
Math
there.
is mathing.
5 points a game is not good. It's not a great matchup against Denver as well. Over the last 4 weeks, no team in the NFL allows fewer fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers than the Denver Broncos. We expect a shout out from Sertan. He'll see at least about that. By the way, Denver has not allowed a touchdown to a wide receiver since week 7.
Go ahead, keep talking. I'll get to this in a second.
Okay,
Yeah, go.
okay.
You done?
No, I'm done.
All
Yeah.
right, no, that's
So I'm
talking
just
about
saying-
math. This is a character flaw for me. We need to
Okay.
discuss this. Matthew
got?
has 207,278 unopened emails,
Yeah.
351 missed calls, and 28 unread texts, which means I shouldn't take it personally when you don't respond.
That's correct. My phone blows up constantly, 24/7.
Mark as red. Just mark as red.
Some of it's spam emails. Some of it's like,
Just mark as red.
some marketing, robocalls.
One of the calls is for me in like 2022, so that if you could just respond to that.
Okay.
that
Sorry,
would be
Lawrence.
Jay,
I'll find that out.
Jerome Ford. I'm fascinated by that. Jerome
One
Ford.
beer for Jerome Ford. He's the number one running back going up against the Broncos. Not very good run defense.
Lawrence, Cortland Sutton.
I actually just need 2 beers because he scored a touchdown in 5 straight games. In 10 games, he only hasn't scored in 2. It's just that it just comes at weird times, but it's gonna happen. So I just need 2 for Cortland Sutton.
Russ Clifford, trust him. All right, moving on to Bills, Eagles. Matthew, how about James Cook? How many beers you need to feel good about starting
2
him?
beers. I'd want 2 beers. Starting to get a buzz, not crazy drunk, but starting to feel a little loose. Because look, here's the positives. Back-to-back games now with over 100 yards from scrimmage, including the first game without Ken Dorsey. He's had a 12.5% target share over the last 3 weeks. They're involving him somewhat in the passing game as well. And you think about what the Eagles did last week. The Eagles, Pacheco ran in a game in which the Chiefs couldn't get a lot going. Pacheco ran all over them.
Yeah.
He had 168 rushing yards last week. Concerns are, it's like Eagles allow the fewest fantasy points to running backs, and we've seen some Ty Johnson and Latavius Murray
That's
in
true,
that mix.
too.
So he's my running back 20. I'd like 2 beers for James Cook.
Speaking of buzz, a lot of buzz on this show today about Khalil Shakir, Jay.
Yeah, still 4 beers for Khalil Shakir, though. I really like Khalil Shakir. I think he'll have a good game, but he's still a receiver who's got a receiving prop set in the 30s, and also he's potentially the 4th option on the offense.
Well, if it's 4 beers for Shakir, how many for Gabe Davis?
I need 5 beers, and all beers need to have shots poured in the beer. Last 3 games, this young man has 8 targets, 2 catches, and 56 yards, despite playing 93% of those snaps. God, 5 beers,
It
yes.
sounds like he's getting cardio. All right, Chiefs, Raiders, Matthew, Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, under 40 receiving yards in 3 or 4 games with O'Connell as a starter. So I need 4 beers. I want to be as drunk as I want to be so drunk I'm slow dancing with Lawrence on the dance floor, like that kind of drunk, because he's had 4 games with Aiden O'Connell as a starter. He's averaging 5.5 fantasy points per game. It's a tough matchup against the Chiefs defense that needs this win. They're angry. So, yeah, I'd want to be pretty hammered.
Jay, Rashid Rice.
4 beers for Rashid Rice. No been really optimistic about Rice, but it's just getting to the point now where he's just not getting open enough in that offense. Mahomes just doesn't find him. I think he's still got some refinement to come with his route running, so 4 beers.
And Lawrence, Justin Watson.
I would say 3 beers here, and that went down for me because Kadarius Toney and McCole Hardman is out. That's a big factor. He did see 11 targets in Week 11. Now, if he just catch a couple of those, then it might be worth it if you the guy who picked them up off the waivers. So I need 3 beers to start Justin Watson.
All right, we need pickup lines, and Matthew has had 10 beers.
10
So
beers.
he's vulnerable.
I'm very vulnerable.
Lawrence, you're up.
I'm very vulnerable.
Listen, I'm going to keep this quick. Lamar
sir.
Jackson is your quarterback 1 this week.
Yes,
so
sir.
there we go. I already said this might be one of those primetime legacy games. I'm going to go alternate rushing yards at least 50 rushing yards at plus 105. This came down from 115 overnight. His last 3 games, look, 9 rushes, 54. 8 for 41 and 10 for 60. Remember when I talked about the Chargers defense not being good at rallying to the ball and tackling open space? That applies to Lamar Jackson running too. So there you go, 50 rushing yards. That's it for Lamar at plus 105. Take it, J. Dobby.
Okay. Wow, I wasn't ready for that. It's
we
thrown me off
prefer
my...
calling him J-Bag. But yeah, go ahead.
Throw me off. This one's a little hot. It's a little steamy.
Okay.
But, we've been talking about
intrigued.
you on the boat and everything, so I feel like we're good there. Jalen Warren, 100-plus rushing yards, outline, plus 850. Here's what Jalen Warren has done in his past 3 games. 129 rushing yards, 101 rushing yards, 88 rushing yards, and he's done it on 11, 15, and 9 carries. Now the running back, the running back coach is now the offensive coordinator. Gets to see what Jalen Warren does every day. And the Bengals have the 2nd worst run defense in the NFL. I think Jalen Warren is much more likely than plus 850 to go for 100 plus.
Wait, I like that one.
Yeah.
I like
You
that
understood-
one.
you
Look
understand-
at Jay is betting with some cojones now.
Yeah.
Plus 850. That sounds like one of my bets.
I appreciate the objectivity and the honesty. Like, you know
Yeah,
what?
Lawrence.
I like that bet too.
Go on with your man.
I like that bet too. Listen, I have a same game parlay that I'm doing tonight for the game, and Lamar Jackson rushing is part of it. So I want to go there, but I'm going to go with Jay's bet here because I'm already pot committed tonight to a Lamar Jackson rushing. Like I'm already if that fails, then at least I'll have I'll be with Jay's bet, and if it wins, then it cashes my same game parlay. So. But I do like both bets. I do like both bets.
And I like that might be the best two bets I've heard this year.
And both at plus money. So I'm going to go with Jay. Jaylen Warren, 100 yards at plus money, the alt line.
Let's do it.
Nice job.
There you go.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Lawrence.
Yeah, man.
Picking up the big fella.
Yeah, hey, now we both plus money line guys.
All right,
There you
listen.
go.
Y'all on fire right now. Y'all got to make up
I'm literally
this
going
gap.
to go bet those right now.
Y'all got to make up this gap in bar trivia. Because, if you're not careful, Matthew may open up an insurmountable lead here. So, bar trivia is next.
I know.
You asked for it, Matthew. Got the music. Tommy DeVito.
Shout out to Nelson, by the way. And by the way, this sounds awesome.
Yes.
It actually really works.
He's walking in rhythm.
I feel like
Shout out to the Blackbirds. He's walking in rhythm right now to the Sopranos theme song.
Christopher Moltisanti's going to have a massive game through the year.
Yeah.
All right.
Good job, Nelson.
Time for last. Hey, that's a
Don't
is that a
don't
three-game
move off
lead?
that too quickly. See,
No,
I'm in
sorry,
first
we moved
place.
By three. Was that 3 games?
I think it's
That's
three.
a hefty lead
3
in
games.
this.
I got a
There you go.
3-game lead, an
I got it.
insurmountable 3-game lead.
Y'all got some work. There's a couple of ties last week here.
Yeah, it's
Actually,
crazy.
No, it's not 3. It's 3. It's 3 correct answers, but yeah, they got these ties that's messing with them too. Mm-hmm. All right, get it together, fellas. Y'all ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Dude,
All right,
born ready.
we're gonna start with you. Lord, don't lose.
Yeah.
More total yards, Bijan Robinson or Alvin Kamara?
Bijan.
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara.
More passing yards, Kenny Pickett or Jake Browning?
Jake Browning.
Jake Browning.
Jake.
Who scored more fantasy points, Lawrence? Adam Thielen or Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
King Henry.
Or who had more receiving yards, Matthew? Michael Pittman or Mike Evans?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with Michael Pittman.
Mike Evans.
Evans.
Who had more total yards, Saquon Barkley or Ramondre Stevenson? Lawrence.
Saquon.
Saquon.
Saquon Barkley.
It's a fun game for me to play in my head, like
Yeah, yeah.
predicting what y'all gonna say based on who had more fantasy points, Matthew? Tank Dell or Travis Etienne?
You know I got to go with my guy Tank Dell.
Are you starting him in guillotine?
Yes, obviously.
No, did you do it? I didn't-
Yes, I did it.
All right, cool.
Hall monitor.
Travis Etienne for me.
Give me Tank.
There we go. That's a win for Croucher.
Who had more rushing yards, Lawrence? Javonte Williams or Jerome Ford?
I'm going to say Jerome Ford.
Javonte Williams.
Jerome Ford.
Did Kyra Williams
I've
score a
got lost.
touchdown in his return, Matthew?
Yes.
No.
Yes, sir.
No.
Did Patrick Mahomes score more than 20 fantasy points, Lawrence?
Yes.
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 Playing defense.
Yeah, a little bit.
Terrible.
Who had more total yards, Matthew? Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
This is where I separate Jalen Hurts.
Oof, all right. Who scored more fantasy points, Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert? I know this answer.
This is where I separate Lamar Jackson.
You're not separate. We're all taking Lamar Jackson. Lamar.
He's my number one quarterback this week. Lamar Jackson.
All right. And lastly, who had more receiving yards, DJ Moore or TJ Hawkinson, Matthew?
Ooh, more receiving yards. I'll say TJ Moore. DJ Moore.
How about
TJ
the
Moore,
comment?
you gotta take
he
both.
tried to take
No. DJ Moore. I
Okay.
want to be clear.
All right.
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore.
All right. We
right.
have no more show. This was a lot
We
of
did
fun.
not.
Let's go,
As
Bijan.
always.
Yeah, I regret the Bijan call. I think you
Bijan.
might have been right.
Yeah.
Bijan.
Wait, you can still change it.
No.
They
Once
didn't
you
play the
say
game.
it,
They didn't play the games
I
I
yet.
feel
don't care.
bad about my Javonte
No, once you-
Williams
I think
golf.
once
Just
you
kinda
make it
slipped
pick.
out.
Good,
Is that the
good.
rule?
Yes.
Once
I think
you-
that's
Yeah.
got to be the rule.
Okay.
I think
It's
that's
like
gotta-
chess.
I think
All
that's
right.
got to
Like
be.
chess, you take your finger
gotta-
off the pawn and
But
stop.
but here's the thing. You can change your lineup up until kickoff. So, but okay, hey, your call.
I'm
Your call.
going to stick with my original call.
Stick with your original call. You got enough cushion to survive.
I'm gonna own that. Listen, it's closing time, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So listen, it's week 12. Go out and get yourself a win for Lawrence, Jay, Michael, and motorboaters everywhere. I am Matthew Berry. Go get yourself a win. Peace out.